Chapter 1. Naruto walked around the hell hole called Konoha. At least he thought it was Konoha. Naruto is only 3 years old, and already he was totally and completely alone. Everyone ignored him, and when he wanted attention, they looked at him with hateful eyes. Naruto was completely isolated, and he wanted nothing more at that age was to rip everyone to pieces. But he was only 3, and you couldn't really do anything to a full-grown and experienced ninja. Naruto kept his anger bottled up and put on a smile. He vowed to himself that whatever happened, whatever they called him or did something to him, he was only going to smile and keep his anger inside. The anger that was bottled up so tightly, Naruto began to wonder if it was even there. All the time, he felt totally alone. That feeling always wore you down, making you think things that are not true, making you believe lies. Naruto knew what was in him, why they hated him, because one day it told him of what he was itself. Naruto was alone in the forest. He stood there for who knows how long, trying to bring his anger down. Stupid adults, Naruto thought, his anger going down instantly. Naruto sat down to watch the leaves and the breeze, since there was nothing else to do. He closed his eyes and lay down to sleep. In the midst of the dreaming realm and reality, Naruto was suddenly pulled into a new place. He landed in some water that stank badly. Naruto got up and was face to face with a giant red eye. Naruto just stood there looking at the eye in wonder. He didn't know if it was a dream or if he was actually transported to this place while he was sleeping. He decided that it was something like a dream. A weird-sounding growl escaped the being in front of him, and Naruto suddenly looked confused. "You are smart for one so young," it said. Naruto just watched it in wonder, and then finally found his voice. "You are the demon that is inside of me?" he asked, smiling slightly. "Yes, I am known as the QB, and you're going to be Fleshbag or Weakling from now on," it said, watching Naruto. He only nodded, smiling at the nicknames. "I never had a nickname like those before," Naruto said enthusiastically. The QB only frowned, wondering what was with this human. "Oh well, he is only 3 in human years. You are to listen to everything and anything I say from now on," the QB stated, seeing if his vessel would react badly. Naruto only nodded. "Will we be like friends?" he asked, hoping the answer would be yes. The QB only chuckled at this, but spark of interest rose in him. "Yes, we will be something like friends." Naruto smiled again, happy that he finally had a friend. The QB, well, he had other plans. "Listen up," Naruto instantly settled down. "Since no one else cares for you, I will train you. You would do exactly what I tell you and no objections," the QB stated, watching Naruto closely. Naruto only nodded, looking happier than before. The Ninetail only found this amusing. "The first thing you will do is leave this pathetic place. No one here loves you, so why stay? Leave now," the QB commanded, watching as Naruto nodded and then disappeared. The QB knew that the boy was going to get strong enough so he could take over. His plan was in motion. Naruto woke up and stretched. He remembered the QB's orders and walked to the entrance to the village. In times like this, the guards usually slept instead of watching, so Naruto got by easily. Naruto entered the forest beyond and stood there, not knowing what to do. He lay down on the ground and tried to get some sleep. Right before he fell asleep, he was yanked away and back into the place he was in before. Naruto got up and looked around. He looked at the cage to find that the eye was no longer there. Naruto walked up to the bars to see if he could hear the QB's breathing. His hands grasped the bars, and he stuck his head in to get a better look. All was silent. Just when Naruto was about to take his head out of between the huge bars, a claw or something struck his head, making him fly backwards. Naruto took the pain without crying out. That itself made the QB respect the little Fleshbag a bit. Naruto stood up with a smile on his face, not even rubbing the places where the QB was certain he landed. "What do I do now, and what do I call you?" Naruto asked, smile fading a bit. "You may call me Master or QB-sama. As to what you need to do now, survive." Naruto only pouted, as if saying, "Is that all?" Kyuubi made the same weird noise and said, "We can't have you falling asleep whenever you need me." The Kyuubi thought a moment, then said, "Come here, weakling. I will give you something." An excited-looking Naruto came forward and stood only a few feet from the Kyuubi's prison bars. The Kyuubi motioned for Naruto to come closer, and Naruto instantly obeyed. As soon as Naruto came within inches from the bars, did the Kyuubi thrust the claw on his left paw out and right through Naruto. Naruto screamed out, being thrown back. Naruto screamed even more and felt as if his head was going to explode. Naruto didn't cry, though. He just screamed and screamed as the pain intensified, filling the seconds with agony. After a bit, the pain in Naruto's head lessened as a new pain raked his body. Naruto felt as if his flesh was being ripped apart and bones shattered. He screamed and screamed, waiting for the pain to go away. The Kyuubi watched in interest. The pathetic 3-year-old human in front of him was only screaming, not crying. Such pain would have the toughest ninja crying in seconds. Maybe the flesh bag in front of him never learned how to cry, being alone all his life. The Kyuubi knew that the pain was not lessened at all, knowing himself that he had just given Naruto a ninth of his power. Any more than that at such a young age would rip his body apart. The pain in Naruto's body faded. He lay there for a couple of minutes, shivering violently. Then his shivering ceased, and he stood up on unaccustomed legs. Whatever the Kyuubi did to him, it had made him a lot stronger than any teenage ninja. Naruto tested the body out by running around and jumping from place to place. He stopped and looked at the giant eyes that were watching him. "What did you do, Kyuubi-sama?" Naruto asked, standing still. Chapter 2. Naruto is now 10 years old. He learned much from Kyuubi-sama, and now he could match any highly advanced ninja. Naruto underwent 2 other transformations that altered his body, mind, and stamina. The Kyuubi told him that he wouldn't have another one until he was strong enough for it. That made Naruto kind of happy, not having to worry about the intense pain for a while. Naruto has trained beyond endurance. He has learned to hunt for his own food. He always looked like a loner because of his unfamiliar clothes. He learned so many jutsus that it would appall many, and he still had a long way to go. Not one day did he complain or pout or anger the demon inside of him. Not one day did Naruto put off training to relax. He trained constantly, always going farther and farther, testing how far he could go. The Kyuubi was almost proud, of how hard Naruto worked and constantly made him keep it up. Naruto turned hard and ruthless, not caring for anyone but himself. The Kyuubi inside him always kept him company and was his first friend. Naruto no longer felt alone, always talking to the Kyuubi inside him. He killed anyone who attacked him and spared no one. They were potential enemies, and he had to make sure. One day, the Kyuubi announced that Naruto was ready for another transformation. Naruto frowned, but obeyed without question. Naruto sat down in the forest to make sure that he was ready and that he was hidden. The pain came without warning, but Naruto didn't scream out. It stayed for longer than usual, but the routine was the same. First, his head exploded with pain, and then his body would feel like it was being ripped apart slowly. The intense pain stayed for a very long time before it ceased. Naruto wasn't shivering, knowing full well that he had to hide it. After a bit, Naruto got up and began training again. It was gruesome, but he didn't give up. Every part of his body screamed out in pain, but he kept it up, trying to lock and ignore the pain. "You may stop for today, flesh bag." The Kyuubi cut in. Naruto didn't stop, but thought in his mind, "No, I'm going to train as much as I should for today. It will make me stronger." "No, you will stop for now because that transformation took a lot of your endurance, and you have yet to feel it." Naruto stopped, thinking, "Yes, Kyuubi-sama." Naruto jumped into a tree and fell asleep. It was the best place to sleep, considering not much animals could climb a tree, and people were less likely to find him here. When Naruto woke up, the first thing he noticed was that his hearing was much better. When he opened his eyes, they were a lot sharper, allowing him to see each individual hair on a caterpillar above him. The Kyuubi cut into his thoughts. "The last transformation gave you more acute senses that you will have to learn to use. Get up and start. Naruto got up and did a couple of exercises. After that, he followed Kyubi-sama's precise instructions. Soon he learned how to use all the senses. This put Naruto an even greater advantage against his enemies. Soon Naruto was running through the trees, practicing on a shadow clone that Kyubi-sama taught him at age 6. 6 other clones came up behind him and tried to attack, but Naruto sensed them before they even got close. He destroyed every one of them easily and was soon bored from the lame training session. This is getting boring. I need a new jutsu so I can actually get stronger. Fine, I will teach you a new jutsu, but his one is dangerous when used too often. I am condemning you to use it only 3 times a day. Understood? Naruto nodded, thinking, I understand, Kyubi-sama. Good, then listen and learn. Naruto didn't take long to learn how to use the jutsu, but controlling his chakra so that it did what he wanted it to do with this particular jutsu proved to be a little challenging. Soon, Naruto had mastered the jutsu enough to use it. Advanced Shadow Clone Jutsu, Naruto said quietly after he did the hand signs. In a puff of whirling smoke, a replication of Naruto appeared. The Kyubi vessel felt an expected chakra drain as half of his current chakra went into the clone. Now Naruto was able to adequately train and hone his skills. That night, Naruto lay on the forest floor, looking up at the stars. He didn't know why, but he felt at peace while watching the stars. Naruto tried to fall asleep, but it didn't come. He felt uneasy, and he knew the feeling well enough to trust it. Naruto stood up and jumped into a tree. He looked around, and his eyes caught 2 people walking calmly down the path. One stopped and said to the other, "There's someone nearby. I can feel their chakra." The other stopped and whispered, "How strong is he?" The first shook his head, "I don't know. He has been training because I can smell his sweat. He may have wasted all or little of his chakra." "Okay, where is he?" "I cannot pinpoint his location. He has been all over the place, so I cannot smell him out." "Fine," the second said. He took a step forward and called out, "Come out, we know you are there. If you won't come out willingly, we will force you out into the open." Naruto chuckled and dropped from the tree. He walked out of the forest and stood in full view of the 2. "You don't have to yell. I can hear your whispering from a mile away." They only looked at him, calculating. The first came forward and said, "State your name and your business here." Naruto only lifted an eyebrow and smirked. "What if I don't want to? No one tells me what to do. Besides, you guys aren't even worth my time." And with that, he walked away. The second man nodded to the first, and he attacked Naruto from behind. He sensed it coming and evaded it, twisting him mid-flip and kicking him in the chest. The attacker was surprised, but quickly retaliated. Naruto dodged each of his attacks and laughed loudly. "Wow, I haven't had this much fun in ages." That only made the attacker even more pissed off. He sped up, hitting Naruto once or twice, but the power that Kyubi-sama gave him also gave him more speed than any human. Naruto hit the attacker once on the chest with his left palm and quickly evaded to the right, doing a quick chop to the neck. Like that, the stranger fell to the ground, stunned. The second, who was standing there, watching, was very impressed. This boy, who looked to be about 10 years old, took down an intensely trained ninja in a small amount of time, and without using a jutsu. This kid was really impressive. Naruto stood back and yawned, stretching. He had the other guy, but he didn't move, so Naruto shrugged and walked away. The second walked up to the recovering ninja, making sure it was all right before they continued, now following the strange boy. Naruto knew they were following him, but he didn't care. He had enough for today. That guy who attacked him was so easy that Naruto could have fought him in his sleep. Naruto jumped into a tree and went into a trance-like state so he could get some rest and stay alert for any sudden attacks. His chakra was recovering swiftly, as it always did. He heard the 2 from earlier whispering together, so Naruto tuned into what they were saying. "What is that kid made of, I wonder?" "I don't know, but it looks like he is self-taught, or he has a hidden sensei nearby." "No, I doubt that. I don't feel any other chakra signatures." "What do you think then, Haku?" I think he is extremely well-toned and has a rapid chakra recovery. I can feel his chakra growing to an impossible level. So the kid has incredible chakra endurance. Yes, I haven't felt a chakra level this strong since we came upon that powerful Akatsuki member a while ago. It's that high. Yes, he is a force to be reckoned with. Just imagine him being part of our dream, Haku. With him added to our group, we will be one step closer to success. Do you really think he will join us? I don't know, but he will make a powerful ally and a dangerous enemy. Yes, we will have to be careful then, won't we? Vedo. Naruto could hear no more because they fell asleep. He got up silently and jumped to another tree to sleep in. He fell asleep, knowing Kyubi-sama would wake immediately if anything happened. Chapter 3. Naruto woke up, feeling refreshed and totally energized. He felt good, and he smiled, jumping down from the tree. The two from last night were still asleep, so Naruto left them there. He headed northeast for a better training arena. Naruto was a good distance away when he felt another chakra presence near. He didn't want to see who it was, but the owner of the chakra level was interested in him. It didn't take the person whom the chakra level belonged to find Naruto. He was a man with a good build, dressed in black and gray clothing. His hair was short and brown, his eyes the same color. Naruto just looked at him before moving on. The man followed, quite interested. Who would be up this early besides me anyway? Naruto thought to himself, but walked on calmly, as if he didn't have a care in the world. The man behind him was named Miranamaru. He was looking for recruits to join Orochimaru. This boy ahead was young, but his chakra level was a little higher than that of an ordinary boy his age. Either that was all the boy had, or he hid most of his chakra from being felt. No, this kid wouldn't be that good. Only a highly advanced ninja could accomplish that feat. Miranamaru lost interest when the boy didn't speak to him or train, so he left the kid alone to look elsewhere. Naruto was glad, having an uneasy feeling from the guy. Naruto kept on until Kyubi-sama called a halt and told him to start training. Naruto obeyed without question and began. The Kyubi thought that Fleshbag wouldn't have any spies or watchers. Naruto did a couple of exercises and swiftly went into his routine. First target practice, where Kyubi-sama would tell him all the human vital spots. Naruto would then go to a tree, any tree, and practice his taijutsu, as Kyubi-sama referred to it as. He then went through some basic jutsus before moving into more complicated ones. He ended with making a clone of himself using his new jutsu. Naruto trained for the rest of the day with his clone, who practically had a mind of its own. When the sun began to cast an orange glow over everything, Kyubi-sama told Naruto that he will stop. Naruto let go of the taxing jutsu and sat down to eat the rabbit he caught and started to cook earlier. It was delicious. After he was done eating, Naruto lay down and slept. The two men from earlier woke up to find the boy gone from his tree and nowhere within a 5-mile radius. They cursed silently and began to search for him. They walked for hours before they came across a foreign chakra signature, but they weren't interested. They kept walking, and after a while, they sat down to rest and talk in private. Where do you think he went? I don't know. I don't feel him anywhere near here. You're certain? Maybe he lost a bunch of chakra lately, or maybe he is hiding from us. Yes, I'm sure. Maybe he is hiding from us, but I doubt it. He didn't try to hide last night. Yeah, I almost forgot that. I wonder if we went in the right direction. There's a good chance he went the other way. Well, if he did, we just lost a potential ally. Well, we'll never know until we find him, I guess. Yeah, we'd better go. They both got up and continued to walk. After another couple of hours, the first, named Haku, felt a familiar chakra level. He got excited and said, "This is him. Let's go." The second followed Haku through the forest until they came to a small fire and the boy lying down beside it. They sat down, but as soon as they did, the boy jumped up and into a tree, quickly going from branch to branch. They looked quizzically at each other before following. Naruto couldn't believe they got that close. He should have been on alert. and now they were following him around. He jumped into a small clearing and turned to wait for them. They came quickly enough and faced him side by side. Naruto wondered what was up with these two when the second guy walked forward. Naruto didn't move as started to speak. "We are not enemies. We merely wish to speak to you. If it is about me joining your team or group, whatever you want to call it, I am not interested. I'm better off without people to hold me back." Naruto waited for an answer. When none was forthcoming, he turned around and walked away. "Is that what you always do? Walk away," said the guy named Haku, who was about 8 years older than Naruto. Naruto didn't stop, but said, "At least I have enough sense to." That got what he wanted. Haku suddenly attacked Naruto from behind. He knew it was coming even before Haku thought of it. Naruto evaded and quickly kicked Haku in the ribs. The attacks didn't end there. Haku tried to throw punch after punch to Naruto, but missed every time. He was simply too advanced and much more disciplined than he was, because whatever Haku shot at him, Naruto merely smiled and laughed. Finally, Haku was so tired that Naruto just pushed his left shoulder back a bit, and Haku dropped like a stone. Naruto laughed again and walked away, officially bored with the two. The second just gave up on Naruto and went to help out his pupil, Haku. Naruto entered the forest and started to run in a southwestern direction. The Kyuubi cut into his thoughts. "You handled that fairly well, flesh bag." Naruto only grunted. "You will run the rest of the day today to bring your stamina up even more. You will not stop until I say so. Got that?" Naruto grunted again and didn't stop running. Night fell soon, and the Kyuubi told Naruto to keep going. He didn't argue. Naruto didn't stop until Kyuubi-sama told him so. The moon was well in the sky before Kyuubi-sama told him to stop. Naruto ran a bit more to find a good tree and stopped, panting deeply for breath. In the morning, Naruto ran some more in the same direction as last night. He was forbidden to jump into the trees, to jump from branch to branch. At noon, Kyuubi-sama told Naruto to stop and start his training. As usual, Naruto started with his exercises and then swiftly moved through his training. Soon, Naruto made a clone of himself and trained with him until night fell, leaving everything in blackness because of the new moon. Kyuubi-sama was the one who informed him of the powerful chakra signature nearby. Naruto was instantly on alert but didn't show it. He was sitting near the little fire he made when a strange-looking man walked past him. Naruto didn't even look up as the man stopped, looking at him. A smooth voice cut the silence in half. "Do you mind if I join you?" Naruto grunted, eating his rabbit he cooked. The man sat down and continued to watch Naruto carefully. An uneasy feeling edged its way into Naruto's mind when the man looked at him, making Kyuubi-sama interested. When Naruto was half finished, the man spoke again. "You wouldn't happen to know some people named Zabuza and Haku, would you?" Naruto looked up into the guy's eyes. They were cold, yellow, and looked almost completely dead. "Not sure about the first one, but a guy named Haku is that way." Naruto pointed northeast, hoping to get rid of this guy. The man didn't respond, looking at Naruto's eyes in clear interest. After a bit, Naruto threw the remains of his dinner away and stood up, saying, "Have to go. When you find Haku, give him my thanks for the fun." The man watched Naruto go, knowing that this was the boy who his servant, Maranamaru, was talking about. Orochimaru spoke into a small ear thing, and a short reply came back. He was going to test the boy's abilities and strengths with a little fight. Chapter 4. Naruto felt the uneasy feeling grow stronger, but Kyuubi-sama berated him, thinking that he was being paranoid. Naruto shrugged and kept running, knowing where to foot his feet thanks to his eye improvement. The feeling grew steadily worse, and Naruto finally had to push it down in annoyance. He had been running for an hour when something suddenly attacked him from the side. Naruto evaded the attack easily and retaliated by punching him effectively in the neck. The attacker went limp and Naruto was able to push on. He came into a small clearing when Kyuubi-sama growled, "Damn, you are surrounded, fleshbag. Wait to see what they want, and if they attack, kill them all." "Yes, Kyuubi-sama." Naruto stopped and waited. Soon enough, many ninja attacked him at once. Naruto evaded the first, throwing a kunai at his heart before attacking another. The kunai flew true, and the ninja fell dead. He repeated the same sequence over and over again until one man was left. Naruto wanted some fun, so he beat the crap out of the defenseless ninja. It was so pleasing to beat on another human. Well done. A familiar voice cut in, stopping Naruto in mid-punch. The man that sat down with him earlier came out of the forest, clapping silently. Naruto dropped the half-dead ninja at his feet and just stood there. I'm Orochimaru. I'm looking for Dash. Not another one. Naruto slapped his head in an exasperated sigh. I am not interested. Don't you think I would have joined a group by now if I wanted to? Naruto snapped. He then smiled stupidly and walked away. Orochimaru quickly intervened. Why not join mine? I can offer you power beyond your wildest dreams and unknown jutsus. He tempted, seeing if Naruto was going to take the bait. Naruto only frowned and shook his head. No, I already have a lot of power, and I don't want someone holding me back. Orochimaru was one who was rarely denied. When he was denied something he wanted, he took it by force. Orochimaru snapped his fingers, and two Jounin jumped to his side. Naruto didn't know either of them, but he knew by refusing such a stupid offer, he angered Orochimaru. That was just great to Naruto. He snapped his fingers again, and both the Jounins attacked at the same time. Naruto quickly found out that these were more powerful ninja, but it was still easy to fight them off. Naruto was tiring at an alarming rate, so he called upon his reserve chakra supply to help him finish the battle. Orochimaru smiled at the boy's effort, but he was young and tired quickly. Orochimaru thought that the battle was over when a huge chakra signature appeared, seeming to come from the boy. Orochimaru was now even more interested. This boy, with about 10 years' experience, having the ability to make a reserve of chakra for future use. What a prodigy. He probably wasn't the smartest, but Orochimaru didn't care. He wanted the boy on his side because he could become a dangerous enemy. Naruto knew that he was at a slight disadvantage, so he used the new jutsu he learned earlier. He jumped away from the attackers and quickly did all the hand signs and calling out, Advanced Shadow Replication Jutsu. Immediately a clone of Naruto appeared with half of his chakra. The real Naruto went after Orochimaru while his clone kept the others busy. Orochimaru was surprised when he saw this boy do a jutsu that only an ANBU member could do properly. He quickly evaded the boy's attack, trying to retaliate, but missed. Naruto went through several chains of attacks that he knew, but none of them worked. He kept missing. The boy knew he couldn't win against a ninja this strong, so he did what was smart. Letting the taxing jutsu go, Naruto jumped away and quickly did another jutsu to get away. Teleportation jutsu. Naruto instantly disappeared in a whirl of smoke. Orochimaru was yet again surprised that such a young boy was able to do such advanced jutsus. The boy won his respect, that's for sure. Orochimaru went to his right-hand man, Kabuto. Kabuto stood up straight and apologized. Orochimaru waved it off and beckoned them to come. They followed like dogs to a respectful owner. Naruto reappeared 3 miles away, sitting down to recover. Looks like you have to get stronger. I know, Kyubi-sama. I'm just wondering why I'm suddenly the center of attention. Nobody even looked at me when I was younger. It is because you are stronger than before. All those bastards who used to look down on you like you were a filthy creature have suddenly realized their mistake. Now they all want a powerful ally, but you are better off alone. Yes, that way I won't be held back. Do you really think I can grow stronger without someone else to practice on? Maybe. I know not what the future holds for you. Maybe you should infiltrate a village. That'll get enough ninja after you for you to get stronger. Really, Kubi-sama? I can infiltrate a village now. Yes, you are strong enough now. But wait until tomorrow. There's a transformation coming soon. I don't want you suddenly on the ground in pain in the middle of an infiltration. Yes, Kyubi-sama. Naruto sat down on the ground and waited. Soon enough, The pain came. It was more intense than before. Naruto curled up into a fetal position and tried not to scream out in pain. It was different than before, though. His body suddenly exploded in pain, and Naruto couldn't help but scream out. The transformation lasted a whole hour before it stopped, leaving an unconscious Naruto on the ground. When Naruto woke up, he felt oddly out of place. He sat up and rubbed his eyes. He then got up and stretched. The QB cut in. "I am surprised you were alive, fleshbag. I thought for a moment that you couldn't handle the pain. You have gained a little more of my respect." "Thank you, QB-sama, but where am I? Did that ninja Orochimaru come?" "No, he didn't, but those two from before came along and picked you up. I think you are in the country of the waves." "Not those two again, God. When will they learn that I won't join their group?" "I think it will be a good idea for now. Join them when they offer again. They may prove useful." "Yes, QB-sama." Naruto looked around, but saw no one. He shrugged and jumped into a tree to sit for a while. After a while, Naruto jumped down and went through his regular exercises and started his accuracy practice. It wasn't long before the two came back. "Oh, you're awake. I assume you met up with Orochimaru." No Name spoke up, watching Naruto carelessly. "What's it to you?" Naruto continued his accuracy training. "Well, no one faces Orochimaru and gets away looking squeaky clean," Haku said. Naruto only grunted, still throwing kunais at the tree with amazing speed. "So what if I faced Orochimaru? By the way, he is looking for you too." This seemed to get them to back off a bit. Naruto ran out of kunais and walked forward to retrieve them. He walked back and began on his shurikens. They watched him for a while before sitting down and talking. Naruto didn't want to listen to them, but he did anyway. "What's with this boy? He sounds like he doesn't have a care in the world. He will make a good ally, considering he met up with Orochimaru and came back in one piece. Nobody does that. Do you think he will join us if we ask? Who knows? Maybe he will see the advantages with being in our little group. Maybe this boy is amazing. He can throw his kunais and shurikens with a speed I've only seen with AMBU members." "Yes, but you have to improve your speed too if you want to master your bloodline limit." "I know. I wonder if he will offer to show me." "Who knows? I wonder how he got so dash." "You can stop talking about me anytime now." Naruto cut in, his shuriken training done. He walked forward and casually pulled out his shurikens from the tree and sat down near the group. They looked genuinely surprised. "How are you able to hear us when we're using whispering so quietly?" Haku asked. No Name only looked at him with curious eyes. Naruto shrugged and laid back, hands behind his head. Naruto suddenly asked, "Hey Zabuza, why is Orochimaru after you guys?" Yet again, they were surprised, but answered quickly, "He is after Haku's bloodline limit." "Oh, those things, they're a waste of time, considering I don't have one," Naruto stated carelessly. "Why did he pay you a visit?" "He wanted me to join him." Naruto shrugged again. "Well, since you don't want to join him, what about our offer?" Haku asked, waiting. "If it'll mean me practicing on him more often, then I accept." Zabuza looked at Haku in triumph. "Good. We have to move out now because we have a long walk ahead of us." Naruto didn't move. "I said we move out," Zabuza repeated. Naruto only laid there. He shifted and said, "If I'm going to be in this group, we need a few ground rules. 1. I don't take orders from those under me. 2. I go wherever I want. 3. I call the shots when it comes to infiltration jobs. And 4. Whatever happens to me, you are not to interfere." Zabuza only stared at him. Knowing that the boy could kill him without much work, Zabuza nodded. Naruto got up and said, "I am Naruto, but you will call me." "Don't get cocky. You are not worthy to be called Naruto-sama. Fine, Kyubi-sama." Naruto thought a moment for a good name, but found none. "Fine, you may call me Naruto. Let's go." Naruto took off in the direction of the village he wanted to infiltrate. "Naruto, we have a job in the village hidden in the mist. Please put aside some of your previous plans and help us complete this job." Naruto stopped and turned a smile on his face. "What is in it for me?" Zabuza answered, if you were to come with us? Lots of ANBU members at your mercy. Naruto liked the sound of that, so he gestured for Zabuza to lead the way. Zabuza turned back around and headed back to the village his job was located at. Chapter 5. You know what your job is, now go and do it. Their employer waved them off. Zabuza nodded and walked out the door. Naruto and Haku followed. Their job was relatively easy. Infiltrate Konoha, or the village hidden in the leaves, and grab some old scroll. Naruto could do it by himself, but he didn't want all the fun to himself. The village he was to infiltrate sounded familiar, but Naruto didn't brood on it. They reached the village by nightfall, killing the guards by the door. Like they were part of the shadows, they crept to where the library was located. Naruto had a major sense of déjà vu, but still ignored it. Naruto crept away, following the infiltration plan, and silently removed the vent near the ground. Only he was small enough to fit in, so the others had to hide and keep lookout. Naruto hid all of his chakra, so he wouldn't set off the chakra alarms, and climbed into the library. Naruto knew where the scroll was because Zabuza told him. He walked up the stairs quietly and crept along the walls to the designated spot. He saw the door that led to the Hokage's office and smiled. He walked up to the door and quietly opened it, its well-oiled hinges making no sound. Naruto crept along the long hallway, eyes flashing everywhere. He soon reached the end of the hall and opened the door quietly. He found himself in a well-furnished office with a bookcase behind an oak desk. Naruto smiled again and went to the bookcase, pulling on a bright green one. The bookcase made a small grating sound and moved to the right. Naruto found a small pocket in the wall where the scroll he was looking for placed on a stand. Naruto took out the replacement scroll and quickly switched the two scrolls. He tucked the new scroll inside the little backpack he has on his back and pulled the same green book to close it. The bookcase moved silently back into place, and Naruto turned to go. He saw a man in the shadows, watching him. He had silvery gray hair that stuck up into the air, and one of his eyes was covered with his bandana. He wore a green vest over his blue suit, and he had his hands in his pockets. Naruto stood up straight and waited for the man to do something, noting that he looked familiar. The man only stood there, watching him with one eye. Naruto took one step to his right and saw that the man didn't do anything. So he started running right, seeing him follow to try to cut him off. Naruto quickly changed direction and jumped out the window. The man was caught off guard but went after the 10-year-old boy. Naruto took the 40-foot drop with ease, landing softly, and ran. The man behind him had to land on another roof to follow him. Naruto hid in the shadows near Zabuza and passed him back. Zabuza nodded and moved away. Naruto jumped back out to create a diversion for Zabuza and Haku to get away. He jumped onto the roof and was in full view of the familiar man. He jumped away when the man ran after him. Naruto led them away and soon found himself on a house roof in front of a giant cliff with expertly carved faces on it. Naruto didn't even look at the cliff because several other nin suddenly appeared. They must have found the dead bodies, Naruto thought, smiling stupidly. He was now completely surrounded, and the man that found him walked forward. Naruto only kept smiling, making them drop their guard a bit. You are to give up now and hand over the scroll. Naruto just shrugged and said, well, I no longer have it. Maybe it's halfway to its new owner. Just then, the gray-haired nin snapped orders at two ANBU behind him, and they instantly disappeared. Naruto only laughed, like you're going to find them that way. He put his arms up and curled his fingers behind his head, changing his stance a bit. You aren't going to find them that much, I know. The man ignored his comments and spoke to the man at his right. He nodded to a ninja behind him, and he moved forward to knock Naruto out. Naruto, of course, heard what he said and quickly jumped up and out of the circle. He was instantly surrounded again, but this time they put their guard way up. Why won't you listen to me? You won't find them, and you can't knock me out with such slow movements. You guys should train a lot harder, you know? You guys are weakle dash. All of them attacked at once, but that wasn't the real Naruto. It was a copy nin, and the real Naruto was with the group. As soon as they touched the copy nin, it disappeared in a puff of smoke. A clone? Where did that boy learn that? The man only shrugged and gave more orders out. They needed to find that blasted scroll. Naruto laughed hysterically as he jumped from branch to branch. They actually fell for the Kapinin. Of all the things to fall for, it was the Kapinin. Zabuza and Haku laughed too, knowing what Naruto did. In a couple of minutes, they found themselves in the village hidden in the mist. They quickly handed over the scroll and got their reward. They left, and Naruto got a little mad. I thought you said I could fight the ninjas? You guys are helpless without me. They took the insult quietly, knowing he was right. They couldn't have gotten the bloody scroll if he hadn't been there. What they knew of him so far was that he never got mad. Whenever they threw an insult at him, he took it and just smiled. He must have had a bad past in order to be that well-disciplined. They walked out of the village and continued to go through the night. Naruto felt the approaching chakra signatures before Haku did. He instantly ran into the forest saying, "Follow me." They followed without question and hid where he did, hiding their chakra. Soon enough, they saw several ninjas stop where they were a couple of minutes before. Haku felt their chakra signatures and imprinted it into memory. The ninjas started to whisper to each other, and Naruto heard them. They were here a couple of minutes before, but now, I can't feel anything. Does anyone else know where they went? No, several whispered. Well, he isn't so fast as to disappear so suddenly. What about that scroll? Do you have any idea where that went? No, they either have it still, or it is already delivered. Okay, spread out and dash. Naruto suddenly jumped out from hiding, gesturing to Zabuza and Haku to go. He landed at the edge of the forest and surprised everyone. You really shouldn't talk about me, you know? They all put their guards up and waited for Naruto to make his move. Naruto only yawned in mock tiredness and rubbed his eyes. They took the gesture as an opening and attacked. Naruto didn't move until the last second, jumped and landed gracefully 10 feet away in other direction. He stuck out his tongue, angering the ninja who instantly surrounded him. Naruto smiled stupidly, but didn't try to get away. The man from earlier, the familiar one, came forward and said, "Where is the scroll?" Naruto shrugged and answered, "With its new owner." "Who hired you?" "None of your concern, old man." "It is my concern. Where is the scroll?" "I told you, with its new owner." "At least tell me where your last employer lives." "At my last? That was my first." "Really now? Are you going to tell me where he is?" Naruto shrugged. "What's in it for me?" "We spare your life." "My life isn't worth anything." "Really? So you don't care if we kill you now?" "No, but you won't because you need that scroll, and I am the only one who can tell you." The man sighed, obviously defeated. "Now, if you don't mind, I need my personal space here." He nodded to the ninja who surrounded Naruto, and they backed off a bit. Naruto waved his hand back and forth, telling them to move farther. They did, and Naruto felt better. He didn't try to jump away, but he smiled stupidly. "What's your name?" "Kakashi. Yours? You look oddly familiar." "You do too, but I'm not giving my name out yet. You haven't gained that right." "How will I gain the right? Why won't you tell me?" "Because I have a hard time to trust being alone all my life." Kakashi only nodded, understanding. He thought a moment and asked, "Do you have a village?" "Not that I can remember. I ran away when I was 3. "Nobody came looking for you?" "No, why should they? They thought I was a—" "Don't tell them, you idiot." The Kyubi-sama cut him off. Naruto instantly shut up. "Sorry, Kyubi-sama." "A what?" Kakashi pressed. "I was the dirt under their shoes." Kakashi wasn't convinced that the boy in front of him was telling them the truth. He mentally shrugged and stepped forward 1 step. Naruto backed off 2 steps, not wanting Kakashi anywhere near him. Kakashi looked confused, taking another step forward. Naruto stepped back 2 steps and said, "Just stay where you are and I won't move anymore. I'm having an uneasy feeling." Kakashi stood still, asking, "Why are you feeling so uneasy?" "We are not here to hurt you." "I don't know that for sure." Kakashi nodded, noting how smart the kid was. Come with us, and we will make sure no one hurts you. I'm not going with you. I don't trust you. You don't have a choice in the matter. No one tells me what to do. Well, in this case, you have to. Come quietly. No. Why not? Because you are ANBU and ANBU are not to be trusted. Well, aren't you the smart one? That's how I survived this long. Well, we have questions to ask you, but you need to come with us. I said no, and that's my final answer. Kakashi looked like he frowned, and he snapped his fingers. All came at Naruto, but he was too fast for them. He jumped up, did a couple of hand signs, and shouted, "Teleportation jutsu," and he disappeared. Damn, lost him again. Kakashi cursed. Find him and bring him back here. All nodded, and Kakashi watched them disappear. After he was alone for a few minutes, someone came out of the forest. Kakashi looked at him and saw that it was Orochimaru. He was instantly on alert, saying, that's why the boy had an uneasy feeling. What do you want, Orochimaru? Orochimaru only smiled and said, I want the boy when you find him, of course. He is coming with us, Orochimaru. The boy is far too dangerous to go with you. Don't I know it? He took my men out easily. Really? He would be a valuable ally then. Maybe I should offer a hand of friendship out to him. Orochimaru smiled coldly. He won't want to. I sense a powerful chakra level in the boy. He does whatever he wants. Well, at least it is better than going with you. Do you want me to tell you who helped him out? Kakashi frowned. And what would you want in return? Orochimaru only shrugged. Nothing. Zabuza and Haku got him on their little group, and they were hired by someone in the village hidden in the waves. After he said that, Orochimaru turned around and jumped away. Kakashi didn't let his guard down until he was certain Orochimaru was well away from him. Kakashi waited several minutes when the ANBU members came back, holding a writhing boy. They put him down and watched for a long while until he stopped. He was shivering violently and curled up into a fetal position. You found him like this? An ANBU member on his left shook his head. We engaged him in a battle, and quite suddenly he looked shocked at something. Then he started to scream out in pain. We don't know what it was, but his chakra spiked at an amazing level. Kakashi nodded when the boy suddenly stood up on weary legs. He looked around blurrily, like he didn't know if this was a dream, then immediately changed his stance. The sudden change brought unease, and Kakashi stepped forward. The kid stepped back, not wanting him to come any closer. Kakashi stopped and frowned. Why don't you want anyone near? I just don't okay. Just leave me alone. I am no longer interested in those stupid infiltration jobs. I changed my mind. I want to offer you a hand of friendship and welcome you into ANBU. The boy shook his head stubbornly. Get it through your thick skull. I'm not going with you. I need to know why. None of your goddamn business. You are kind of young to be using that kind language. I am much older than you in experience, and that counts for everything. Don't you have a smart mouth? Naruto knew what he was trying to do and instantly put on a stupid smile. Yep, me the smart mouth. Kakashi knew when he smiled that he didn't want to get mad. He ventured further. Why were you riding on the ground in pain? The boy looked shocked, but quickly answered, wouldn't you like to know? I would like to help. You can't help me. No one can. Won't you at least come with me? The boy thought a moment, then nodded. Okay, but none of them with. He thought again, and backed off saying, no, I will not go with you. Kakashi now thought that the boy was getting some orders from someone else, because he looked confused. Why the sudden change in heart? The boy slapped his head in mock distress. Why doesn't anybody listen to the little people? Kakashi laughed at that. It was pretty funny. The boy looked at him and smiled stupidly. Kakashi stopped laughing and acted like he didn't care. You aren't going to let me go, are you? The kid swayed on the spot. No, because our enemies have their eyes and ears trained on you. If they get a hold of you, they could be unstoppable. I can take care of myself. Oh, I believe you, but we are only trying to be safe. And he snapped his fingers. The boy tried to get away, but he was too tired. He was knocked out and carried off towards Konoha, Chapter 6. Naruto woke up to a ceiling above him. At first, he didn't know what it was, but when he turned his head, he found that he was in a small room with ANBU members standing near the only door. Naruto instantly stood up and tackled the ANBU members to get out. They were ready, but Naruto was still too much for them. Naruto tried to open the door, but he was knocked backwards by some chakra seal. He landed with a thump, but got up again to try again. After being knocked back several hundred times and using some jutsus he knew, he still couldn't break the stupid seal. He sat down in the middle of the room, panting hard. He wasn't winded, but he was afraid of enclosed spaces. Being outside all your life did do the trick, and Naruto felt himself panicking. No one would come for a while, and the ANBU were still on the floor. He was stuck here for a while. Soon Naruto grew frantic to be let out. He got up and grabbed a ninja and held him in a headlock. He yelled, "If you don't let me out, I will kill him." There was no response. Naruto grew more pissed by the minute. "Let me out." Someone opened the door and came in. Naruto dropped the ANBU where he was and tackled the newcomer to the ground. He jumped away but was tackled by other ANBU. It took 20 ANBU to finally get him under control. Naruto looked around frantically for a way out, not caring about the weird faces they were making at him. "What is wrong?" Kakashi asked. "Let me go." "Why? Don't you feel safer indoors?" Naruto only stared at him in hatred. "Well, don't you? We brought you in here for a reason." "I don't give a shit what that reason is. Let me go," Naruto screamed, trying to get away. "There is no reason to yell, but we will not let you go." "Let me go before I get mad," Naruto snapped, his anger rising with every moment. "And why should I be scared?" That pushed Naruto over the edge. The Kyuubi chuckled as Naruto began to become more aggressive. Kakashi watched in amazement as the boy in front of him grew claws, fangs, and his pupils turned into slits. A red chakra started to whirl around the boy's body, and they were knocked backwards from an unexpected chakra burst. Naruto jumped on Kakashi and was about to kill him when something flashed behind his eyes. He nodded once and jumped out of the building. Naruto landed with ease on the ground and began to run on all fours. People were in a hurry to get out of his way, but Naruto didn't pay them any mind. All he needed to do was get out, and get out. He stopped when some ANBU from earlier jumped in front of him. Naruto smiled maliciously and started to run again. They tried to stop him, but Naruto didn't stop, and in this state, he couldn't be stopped. He ran out of the village and used a transportation jutsu. The ANBU had no idea where he went, and most likely, he teleported a long way. They returned to Kakashi, who was talking to the third. There is no mistaking it. He is the boy with the 9-tail sealed inside. I doubt he remembers this place, because he disappeared when he was 3. The third spoke, thinking, "No wonder why the kid changed his mind about killing me. He got orders from the Kyuubi inside of him to leave immediately." Yes, I was afraid that the Kyuubi would somehow use the boy, but I had no idea the boy would be that obedient. Well, I am lucky he is, or you would have lost a good ANBU member and friend. The third nodded and chuckled. Yes, we wouldn't want you gone. What do we do now? You need to find him before Akatsuki finds out about him, and before that snake Orochimaru gets his hands on him. We will try. With a major chakra boost, Naruto teleported 25 miles northeast of Konoha. He sat down to recover and to converse with Kyuubi-sama. Why are they so thick-skulled? I don't know, but they seem to be interested in you for different reasons. Well, they can kiss my ass before I go with them again. The Kyuubi chuckled. You need to be stronger, but I cannot force another transformation on you. Do I know that all right? The last one hurt like hell. You need to somehow become stronger without picking sides. HN. Well, I don't know. I am wanted now, and I'm going to assume that they know our secret. You shouldn't have gotten mad. I know that, but I couldn't help it. Those damn bastards don't know how to tell if someone is uncomfortable. Yeah, but why would they when they mainly deal criminals? Are you saying that I'm a criminal, Kyuubi-sama? Yes, flesh bag, but not the kind they usually deal with. You are much stronger thanks to me. Kyuubi-sama, How many transformations are left? 3. 3 transformations are left before you are all-powerful. I am lucky to have you sealed inside me, Kyubi-sama. Someday, I will kill every one of the humans that treated me badly. We shall see. Fleshbag, go to sleep now. Okay, Kyubi-sama. Naruto lay down in some shade and fell asleep. This left the Kyubi to think to himself for a while. He is taking a liking to the brat, but he won't say that to him. Soon, the boy will be strong enough to be able to take his power and soul. That stupid seal only worked when he tried to get out, but not when he wanted to take over the kid's body. Wake up, Fleshbag, you're being watched. Naruto woke up to an orange sky. He got up quickly and shook the sleep from his movements. He sensed 2 chakra signatures nearby and smiled. You can come out now, Zabuza and Haku. They jumped out of the forest and right in front of him. Naruto smiled stupidly and waited for them to say something. What happened? I couldn't feel your chakra at all. The bastards took me to that stupid village we took the scroll from and tried to restrain me. I'm telling you now to never restrain me. You don't want to end up dead. They only looked at him, and Zabuza asked, Did you rat us out? Why the hell would I rat you out? I got enough sudden enemies as it is. Well, a couple ANBU came after us looking for the scroll, Zabuza said, looking briefly at Haku. It must have been Orochimaru because I felt his chakra signature before those damn ANBU carried me back to that Kakashi guy. Zabuza looked surprised, but bowed their heads quickly. I think you should back to the village hidden in the waves for a while. You can train in secret there, and Konoha ANBU is not allowed in without permission from Waves authorities. Naruto asked Kyubi-sama, and he agreed. Naruto nodded and followed them. They reached the village by morning, and they got in without question. Zabuza led the way through the streets and finally came to a giant mansion near the back. Naruto looked at it, not knowing that they could build something this big. I'm not going inside. Zabuza looked at him. Why not? It's safer than out here. I would rather take my chances on the roof. Zabuza shrugged and led Haku into the mansion. Naruto jumped up to a window, then to another one, and another until he reached the top. Naruto looked around and found that the place was really open and no one was up here. He lay down and relaxed for a bit before Haku and Zabuza came up. They nodded to Naruto, and they began training Chapter 7. Naruto is now 12 years old. He has learned a whole array of new jutsus, and he went through another 2 transformations. Kyubi-sama informed him that the last one wouldn't come until he was 15, unless dire circumstances aroused. Naruto was a bit happy at that, knowing the intense pain wasn't going to come for a while. Haku had become so strong and fast that he was able to match Naruto easily. He learned many of his bloodline limit techniques and was soon faster than Naruto. Naruto only laughed hysterically at this news, saying, If I take these weights off, you'd better hope that you'll even survive a second. That's when they found out that Naruto had 25-pound weights on his wrists, upper arms, upper legs, and ankles. Haku adopted the idea, but with lighter weights for now. Even Zabuza got weights, allowing them both to increase their speed greatly. Naruto showed them almost as much as they showed him, and soon, they were all good friends. Naruto would always be the strongest, since the Kyubi was inside him, and he soon learned Zabuza's dream. He wanted to make a small army of the best ninja and take over the country of the waves. Naruto liked the idea. Kyubi-sama liked it too, ordering Naruto to protect the weaklings for as long as possible so the dream would be a success. Then they will either kill Zabuza or make him step down from reign. Naruto accepted with a heavy heart. They were nice to him and were his friends. But he had to listen to Kyubi-sama, or else he'll make him weak again. Naruto didn't want that. Naruto told them what would happen if he got mad, or was forced into a small area. They were scared after, never trying to make him go indoors. Naruto smiled at that. They understood why he never got mad, and the consequences that happened if he did. Soon, Zabuza accepted a job that would prove easy enough. They had to kill an old man that was supposed to be lightly guarded and escorted by a team of genins. The job paid a handsome sum for the death of an old bridge builder. They started out and hid in the trees for a while. The stupid old man should be coming soon, because it's been hours since they stopped. Finally, some figures appeared in the distance. Naruto sniffed the air and caught the scent of ANBU members. Shit, the old man has extra protection. Several ANBU members plus the brats hired for the damn escort. Naruto whispered to his friends. This should prove fun, right? Haku smirked at Zabuza. He only nodded and kept looking at the approaching group. Naruto jumped away from the two to get a better look. They watched him go, not really caring. They knew what he was going to do, and they knew he wouldn't get caught. Naruto jumped into another tree and watched the group walk by. He didn't even bother to look at the ANBU, but looked at the young and weak ones with them. There was one girl in the group. She had pink hair that was held back with a blue metal-plated bandana, with her bangs hanging on the sides of her face. Naruto couldn't see her eyes, but he was no longer interested in her. He looked at the second, who was a teenager by the look of him. He wore white shorts with a blue shirt that hid his neck. His metal-plated bandana was on his forehead and tied up in the back. He had black hair, and his eyes were a dark color. Naruto looked at the third one and saw that it was a fat kid eating something that was in this aluminum bag he had. He looked at the guy behind them, and to his surprise, it was Kakashi. Naruto silently made his way back to the group and waited for them to get here. They must have sensed something because they suddenly stopped and did some hand signals. Naruto cursed and ran back to the spot he was before. Zabuza and Haku jumped out in front of them, waiting for Naruto to appear behind them. Kakashi saw Zabuza and said, "Hello, Zabuza. Do you know where the boy is?" "Why would I know?" "Because we were informed that he would be in the group." "Look yourself." Zabuza gestured with his hand for them to look behind them. There stood Naruto, smiling stupidly. The boy with the blue shirt smirked and walked forward, attempting to engage Naruto in battle. Kakashi stopped him and said, "This boy is too advanced for you, Sasuke. Go and help protect the old man." Sasuke gave Naruto one more smirk, but backed off. Kakashi walked forward and smiled. "Hey, Naruto, how are you this fine day?" "So that pathetic excuse of a Hokage told you who I was?" Naruto smirked. Kakashi ignored the insult and walked forward some more. Naruto backed off, not wanting Kakashi to come closer. "Why don't you want me to come close? We're all friends here." Kakashi smiled again, taking a step forward. "I don't let anyone close. Back off before I decide to get mad." Kakashi knew what he meant and stopped. Naruto smirked, knowing that Kakashi was afraid of him. That served Naruto well. Zabuza did a missed technique, and Naruto quickly ran around Kakashi before he could do anything else. He silently ran up to the girl, put his hand over her mouth, and whispered "boo" in her ear before jumping away. The girl was trying to get away, but it was useless. Naruto felt her heartbeat quicken, and he loved how scared she was. He knocked her out and jumped down to grab another one. He went after the cocky guy next, knowing he was going to be an easy target. He snuck up behind him, put his hand over his mouth, and whispered, "Guess who?" before jumping away again. Sasuke was so surprised that he didn't move for a couple of minutes. Then his fear kicked in, and he began to struggle. Naruto just knocked him out and put him near the girl. He just had to roll the fat guy away, and he wouldn't have a problem with him anymore, but the mist began to lift, giving him less cover. Zabuza never showed him how to do it, so he had to back him up. Naruto listened for a couple of minutes and pinpointed their location. He never got to them because he suddenly had this uneasy feeling. He knew who was nearby. That damn Orochimaru guy. Naruto didn't have time to deal with him, but he had no choice. He tried to run to Zabuza to help, but he was knocked to the ground from behind. Naruto jumped up and faced Orochimaru. He just stood there, watching with a smirk plastered on his face. Naruto just put on his stupid smile and waited. It wasn't long before Orochimaru attacked head-on. Naruto kept his stupid smile on his face and dodged each of his attacks. He then tried punch and kick Orochimaru, but he had good evasiveness. Naruto finally got tired of this guy and jumped away. He quickly removed the weights from his wrists and ankles, making him 100 pounds lighter and much, much faster. Naruto smiled maliciously and attacked Orochimaru without warning. Orochimaru wasn't able to dodge this time. His punch hit Orochimaru's face head-on, and he went flying. Naruto smiled, jumped away, quickly replaced his weights, and went to Zabuza to help him out. When he got there, Zabuza was trying to hold off several ANBU, while Haku tried to hold off Kakashi and other ANBU. Naruto did some hand signs and called out Shadow Clone Jutsu. A whole bunch of Naruto clones appeared, catching the attention of everyone. They all attacked, while the real Naruto stood back and watched. He watched them struggle for a bit, and then remembered the old man. He looked around for him and saw him being protected by two ENBU members. Naruto smiled and quickly ran into the forest to sneak up on them. He waited a moment and threw a well-aimed kunai. It hit him in the back of the neck, killing him instantly. The ANBU turned at the sudden movement of the old man and saw him fall lifelessly. In the next instant, Naruto threw two more kunai and they too fell dead. Naruto was just about to call a retreat when a big, thick-fingered hand covered his mouth and another arm pinned his arms to his sides. Naruto struggled in the guy's arms, tried to get free. A flare went up and the ANBU retreated. The guy holding him jumped back and retreated. His mission was a success, but so was theirs. Zabuza saw a flare go up and all the ANBU retreated. There was only one clone left, and he ran up to them. The old man is dead. I killed him. But before I could yell out my success, I was taken by a big guy who was obviously on their side. You are not to try and retrieve me, but go back to our employer, gain the prize money, and stay at the mansion until I return. And with that, the clone disappeared with a puff of smoke. Zabuza and Haku looked at each other, but knew better than to disobey Naruto when he gave an order. They nodded and quickly disappeared, back to the Village of the Waves, Chapter 8. Naruto was taken to a small camp a couple hours from the battle scene. Naruto struggled to keep calm, but being restrained mad made it hard. Kakashi was nearby with any ANBU members that were left. They were doing something in a small area to their left, and several were already eating. Some were keeping watch, and Kakashi was standing there, watching him. Can I let it go now? He's already bitten me 25 times and kicked my shins too many times to count. The voice came from a man who was holding him, and it sounded whiny. Kakashi only laughed and shook his head. Naruto was losing control, his pupils changing from slits back to normal ones and back again. Kakashi saw this and ordered the men to hurry. Don't worry, Naruto. We aren't going to hurt you, so stay calm, Kakashi said, pulling out an orange book he had and began to read it. Naruto bit the man's hand harder and managed to get his mouth free. You could have fooled him. Naruto was muffled by the guy's hand again. Kakashi frowned, watching Naruto stare at him in pure hatred. We are only trying to make sure Orochimaru doesn't get you, Kakashi said, putting the book away. Naruto made a muffled response. Kakashi nodded to the man who restrained Naruto, and he let his mouth go. Orochimaru isn't a match for me. I took him out in one punch. I sent him flying. Naruto smiled stupidly, trying to get his arms free. Kakashi only looked at him and asked, when was this? Before I killed the old man, and did it ever feel good when I killed your men? Naruto's smile turned vicious. Kakashi could see that Naruto was mad now, because fangs began to slowly appear. Kakashi gestured to the man, and he walked to the place where they were setting something up. Naruto was suddenly on the alert, trying to figure out what they were doing. What are you guys? Naruto was muffled again. A growl that sounded like it came from deep inside Naruto's chest was heard, and Kakashi knew he didn't have much time. He went forward and helped finish the thing on the ground. Once it was finished, they backed off a bit. Kakashi motioned for the man, and he came forward, trying hard to restrain the now pissed-off Naruto. Kakashi motioned for the people who were going to help out, and they went to 3 of the 4 corners, kneeling. Kakashi kneeled down at the last one and nodded to the man. He nodded quickly to the others, and they began to chant and do several hand signs. Naruto was thrown in the center as a blue thing appeared, completely sealing Naruto inside. Naruto got up quickly and attacked the blue seal thing viciously. It didn't give in. Kakashi stood up and walked away, his helpers following. Naruto looked at the man who restrained him and saw that it was some old guy with long, spiky hair. He had dark eyes and weird clothes on. Naruto growled viciously at him and tried to attack, but the blue thing stopped him. Jiraiya, come here and let Naruto settle down. He isn't going anywhere at the moment. Jiraiya took one more look at Naruto before leaving. Naruto didn't stop. He attacked over and over, using his shurikens and kunai, but nothing worked. Naruto was just trying to vent his anger off, but so far, it wasn't working. For another hour, all he did was attack the barrier they put up, hoping it would dissolve. He then finally calmed down enough to see and think clearly. Naruto sat down in the center and started to talk to Kyubi-sama. Damn, now I'm trapped in this blue thing with the people I hate the most. It's your fault, the Kyubi stated. You got careless and let your guard down at the wrong time. You're an idiot, fleshbag. I know, Kyubi-sama. How am I supposed to get out of here? I have an idea, but it is dangerous. What is it, Kyubi-sama? I'm going to force the last transformation on you. Naruto looked completely shocked on the outside, and then he began to shake his head. You can't, Kyubi-sama. You said it wouldn't come until I was 15. Silence. I know I told you that, but I also said, unless dire circumstances aroused. This counts. Fine, Kyubi-sama, I am ready. Good, because this will hurt. Naruto got ready for the pain to come, and come it did. It was so intense that he screamed out in the first second. His whole body quaked with pain. He heard people running to his cage, but he didn't care anymore. All he knew at the moment was pain, pain, and more pain. Kakashi looked down at the squirming Naruto on the ground. He hasn't seen or felt anything this momentous. Chakra was pulsing outwards from the kid, and still he screamed. It continued on, not stopping. Naruto still screamed, but soon you couldn't hear it because of his throat. All he was doing was breathing out droplets of blood. Kakashi couldn't bring the barrier down until it wore itself down or was destroyed from the inside. Soon, Naruto began to writhe and hold his head, still trying to scream out in pain. Kakashi watched as Naruto's ears became longer and pointed, his nails becoming sharper and more dangerous. His hair began to grow until it was past his waist, and Naruto's body growing much more muscular under the almost skin-tight clothing he had on. His fingernails grew long and pointed, sharp as a kunai, and much more lethal. Naruto began growing fangs and were sharp and a whole 2 inches long. A tail sprouted from above Naruto's butt, and it kept growing. Another one grew next to it, then another. Soon he had 8 tails, but he didn't stop squirming and writing. A whole hour and a half passed before the boy's soundless screams ceased, and he lay still in a fetal position. Kakashi saw involuntary shivering and twitching, but he still couldn't help Naruto. Several AMBU were watching, shock or disgust on their faces. Jiraiya watched the poor boy too, but he couldn't do anything. Finally, the boy fell into a restless sleep, complete and utterly worn out from the severe pain he felt. Everyone watched his breathing slow to a peaceful rhythm, and they sat down near the seal to watch on him. Naruto woke up in a different place. He felt much stronger, but he didn't feel like himself anymore. After a quick inspection, Naruto found that he had fangs, claws, 8 tails, pointed ears, and longer hair. Naruto pulled a string out of one of his pockets and tied his hair back so it wouldn't get in the way. Then he looked around and saw even more ANBU members watching him. The blue thing was still there, but Naruto felt calmer than he has in a while. He just sat down and closed his eyes to think. He didn't want to talk to Kyubi-sama yet, but he let his thoughts drift. The crowd of ANBU members moved apart to let someone through. Naruto saw who it was, but didn't comment. It was the third and Jiraiya. The third sat down on a chair and watched Naruto carefully. After a while, the third spoke. Will you tell me what happened, Naruto? Naruto asked Kyubi-sama, but he didn't respond, so Naruto nodded. The third listened to Naruto speak. I don't like to be restrained. I don't like to be held against my will. I got mad enough and wanted out badly enough that Kyubi-sama forced a transformation on me. It wasn't supposed to happen until I was 15, but due to recent events, he glared at Jiraiya. It happened closer than it was supposed to. The third only watched him for a bit, then asked, "Did the Kyuubi tell Dash?" "Kyuubi-sama." Naruto cut him off. The third nodded and continued. "Did Kyuubi-sama give you permission to tell me this?" Naruto shook his head and said, "No, he isn't saying anything to me." "Nothing at all? Didn't you hear what I just said?" "God!" Naruto fell silent and just stared at the third. After a bit, Kyuubi-sama did speak, but not in Naruto's mind. Naruto's eyes turned blood red, and he spoke, "Hello, third. So nice to see you," he chuckled, panting slightly. The third only looked shocked. When he recovered, he said, "Why are you doing this, Kyuubi?" Naruto chuckled, "Because I don't have a choice. I refuse to be trapped in this human for the rest of his life, so I decided to take over his body. Are you surprised, third?" The third was surprised, but he didn't show it. The seal will not allow it, Nine-Tail. Stop this madness before you rip the boy apart. Never. He is my willing slave. He listens to anything I say, in return for the power to rip apart his enemies. He panted, staring hungrily at the third. Why would I want to do that? You're seriously asking me that, third? You've seen how these pathetic humans treated him as a child. He was raging inside, but seemed happy on the outside. He always hid his anger, always put on his signature smile when someone called him down. He never fit in, and his father made all of this happen by sealing me inside this body. Naruto panted, still staring hungrily at the third. He thought for a bit, and then said, "Did you tell him that it was his father? What do you think?" The third fell, silent, watching the Kyuubi let go of Naruto's mind, and the boy fell to the ground, sleeping. He brought this upon the boy. He was to blame since his father was dead. He shouldn't have told the public where or who the Kyuubi was sealed in. He should have just put the boy with a family and watch him grow up. But he didn't. He didn't keep the seal a secret. He didn't place the boy in a family. He didn't do anything but watch while the boy suffered. And now, they were all going to pay for what he, the third, didn't do. Chapter 9. Naruto woke up in the same place, but nobody was with him. Naruto felt happy he was alone, with no one to stare at him. He needed to get out of here, but the stupid blue thing was up. Naruto waited for someone to come and see him, but nobody came. Naruto just sighed and got up to do some exercises. After that, he couldn't do his accuracy, so he moved into his training with a clone. Naruto did a couple of hand signs and said, "Advanced Shadow Clone Jutsu." A clone of him appeared, and they both engaged in close combat. Since he was training with an equal, Naruto got thrown into the wall of the blue thing, and it itself knocked him back into the small arena. He began to laugh at all the pain he was going through, just because this barrier was too small to maneuver incorrectly. Naruto was enjoying himself so much. He failed to notice the young people who entered the room. Naruto finally saw them, but didn't make a comment because he was so busy with his clone. It was the two that he knocked out when he tried to and successfully killed the old man. He continued to fight the clone, but was soon tired and bored with it, so he let the taxing jutsu go. He sat down to catch his breath, and he quietly retrieved whatever kunai was near him. He didn't even bother to look at the two young ninja, but continued to retrieve the kunai since he didn't use shurikens. After a while, he finally found and retrieved the kunai and just sat there, waiting for them to talk. Finally, the pink-haired girl piped up. "That was amazing. Will you teach us a few jutsus?" She smiled and waited. Naruto was pretty surprised, but said, "Maybe." The other guy was named Sasuke, if Naruto remembered correctly. He watched Naruto's every move and calculated. Naruto didn't give him a second glance. He quickly went through his list of jutsus and picked one that would prove relatively easy for the pink-haired girl. "What is your name?" Naruto looked at the pink-haired girl, waiting. She answered immediately, "Haruno Sakura." She then bowed slightly. Naruto nodded and began, "I will teach you one jutsu, but I know not if it is too advanced for you." Sakura only nodded, obviously excited. Naruto carried on, "But before I teach it to you, I need to know what your specialties are." "I'm very good in the medical field," she said. Naruto nodded. Satisfied, he continued. Then this jutsu should be relatively easy for you and will heal a greater range of injuries. Sakura nodded again, waiting patiently. Naruto waited a moment and did some hand signs in slow motion for her to memorize. Sakura began and Naruto coached her through it, making sure that she could do it fast enough. He then told her the words and made sure she said them right. As soon as he was done teaching her the new jutsu, someone came in. "Hey there, Naruto. Nice to see you're awake," Kakashi said, looking at Sakura curiously as she practiced her hand signs. "I taught her a new jutsu." "Why?" Kakashi inquired. "Because she wanted me to, and..." He didn't say anything to oppose it. Naruto shrugged, feeling Sasuke's eyes on him. "Oh, okay then, fine by me. I want to be let go in the next few days so I can return to my colleagues and village," Naruto stated, watching Kakashi. One of his tails flicked in annoyance. "Your village is here, Naruto. We will not be letting you go until Hokage-sama says so, no sooner," Kakashi said, watching Sakura. Naruto looked surprised. "This isn't my village. I don't have a real village because I cannot remember the village I was born in. He never told me, so why should I believe you?" This made Kakashi looked at him with a curious eye. "Why would you believe him instead of me?" "Because he gave me a future. He didn't judge me the way the villagers did in my old village. I left my village when I was 3. You really expect me to remember what my village was called?" Kakashi only looked at Naruto, sinking in his words. He was snapped back to reality when Sakura squealed in triumph. Naruto twitched and covered his sensitive ears. His tails all came to life, moving on their own accord. Naruto felt someone taking over, so he said quickly, "Old man, get them out of here." Kakashi didn't know what was happening, but he quickly got them out of the room and watched Naruto, frowning. Naruto's eyes, that were already slit, turned a blood-red color. Naruto held his head, but when the takeover was complete, Naruto looked up and smiled maliciously. "Kakashi, long time no see." Kakashi realized that this was the Kyuubi. He must have taken over Naruto's body. Kakashi was glad the barrier was up. He replied, "Yes, Kyuubi, long time no see indeed." Naruto was panting slightly. "Tell me, have you taken a liking to the boy?" "Yes, of a sorts." "Why?" "I just want to see if you're going to let him go back to his colleagues." "Of course not. This is his village, and the sooner he realizes it, the sooner he will be set free." Naruto chuckled. "Don't you see? He doesn't want to remember. As soon as the memories come back to him, an unstoppable anger will envelope him. Why do you think I never told him of this place?" Kakashi suddenly understood. Naruto doesn't remember his village because he doesn't want to. If Naruto was forced to remember his old village, then all the memories will come with it, and that will anger him even more. If Naruto were to remember Konoha, it would be the end of it. "I see you finally understand." The boy has so much frustration, hatred, anger, and hurt feelings bottled up inside of him. He only rarely loses his temper. Just think how much damage he'll do and how many people he'll kill before he is finally brought down by your weak ANBU. Kakashi nodded, finally understanding how dangerous the kid is. He asked, "How many times has he lost his temper?" "As far as I know, only 2 times. The only times he's been restrained by you." "Is that why he puts on a stupid smile like that?" "What? You thought he was being stupid?" "I guess so." Naruto chuckled again. "All you humans are the same. You all judge other humans by the way they look. You never seem to look beyond your petty differences to see the truth." He chuckled again, his tails all animate. "It's the way we are. Not Fleshbag here. Not once did he call me a name or was scared of me. Not once did he judge someone else at a distance. Not once did he call someone down or lose his temper when someone judged him the wrong way. He took it all quietly, but in his heart, he wanted to tear them apart. At all times, he was stronger than the person who misjudged him and tried to kill him. Fleshbag killed them, but not because they misjudged him, but because they were trying to kill him and he wanted to live. He wanted to live so he can personally hunt down all the people who were mean to him and kill them. Fleshbag will always be different from normal humans because he can see the truth in people, a gift you humans have lost over the generations. Kakashi took his words in, seeing the truth in them. Naruto didn't start calling him old man until he met him and knew he was an honorable man at times. He didn't call him that until after he and Naruto had talked. Kakashi suddenly thought of something. How many transformations did you put him through? 9. He has one more left until I can completely take over his body. Kakashi's visible eye opened wide, not knowing how to deal with it. He just got angry. You put him through that many transformations in 9 years? What the hell is wrong with you? The kid is stronger than you think. I don't care. How come you are doing this? Because Fleshbag's father sealed me inside, and I only want back out. Naruto and I are so much alike, it's scary. We both want freedom. And I suppose Naruto doesn't know about your plan? On the contrary, he wants me to take over. The boy loves me so much that he is willing to give up his limited freedom for me to be free. I was his first friend, the first one to take care of him, so he is so thankful he is letting me take over. Kakashi was yet again surprised. Naruto was going to let this beast take over? He couldn't let him. I'll somehow speak Naruto out of it, or someone else too. Naruto laughed. Do you really think that will work? All I have to say to him is not to listen to any of you, and he'll practically cover his ears or fall asleep. I'll find a way. Yes, well, good luck with that. And Naruto suddenly collapsed. Kakashi couldn't help him with the blue thing up, so he sat down and waited, pondering deeply on what he just learned. He knew he had to tell Hokage-sama, but that had to wait. For now, Chapter 10. Naruto woke up with the blue thing still up. He sat up and rubbed his sore head. He suddenly caught a whiff of some food. He looked up and saw Kakashi eating something from a bowl. Almost instantly, Naruto's stomach growled loudly. Kakashi looks up from his food, a bit startled at the sudden growl. Naruto smiled impishly, rubbing his stomach. Since I'm stuck in here, do you mind catching a rabbit for me and cooking it? Naruto asked, looking away. He really didn't like to ask people for stuff, much less cook his food. Why would you want a rabbit? Why not some ramen? Kakashi asked, bemused. Naruto looked at him funny. What is ramen? Is it another name for deer? Kakashi almost dropped his bowl in shock. This boy not knowing what ramen is? He must have been alone all his life because everyone knows what ramen is. You don't know what ramen is? Kakashi asked in disbelief. Are you deaf or something? What the hell is ramen? Kakashi just stared for the better half of 5 minutes. Naruto began to get uncomfortable and said, Fine, never mind. I'm not hungry anymore. He crossed his arms, legs, and looked away. Kakashi shook his head and continued to eat. Naruto's stomach growled, but he ignored it. He tried to contact Kyubi-sama again, but he felt hollow, like he wasn't there anymore. Naruto sighed quietly, wishing he could talk to Kyubi-sama, but since the last transformation, he hasn't spoken. Naruto was too deep in his own thoughts that he didn't even sense the third come in. Naruto was jerked out of his thoughts by his voice. Naruto, how are you today? Naruto didn't even look at him, but answered, I'm starting to get uncomfortable and hungry. It's the Kyubi-dash. Kyubi-sama. Naruto snapped, eyes flaring and teeth bared at him. The third didn't expect such an outburst, but nodded. Is Kyubi-sama speaking to you at all? Kakashi saw the boy slump, his eyes misting over. Kakashi guessed that this was the first time he's come this close to crying. No, he is so silent. I'm starting to think he isn't there anymore. He fingered one of his tails, absently. Kakashi felt pity for Naruto start to form. Did he tell you your lineage? No, Kyubi-sama said that my lineage doesn't matter and that my father is a complete idiot. If Naruto knew the third as well as all of Konoha does, he would know that the third almost never lost his temper. Naruto has pissed him off within a span of 5 seconds, a new record. If you knew what you were talking about and that damn nine-tailed dash Naruto snapped again, Kyubi-sama, old man. The third ignored him. Fox told you something that was true, you would know what a great man your father was. Naruto got mad. If he was such a great man, Why the fuck did he leave me in a hellhole alone? The only thing I am thankful for is him sealing Kyubi-sama inside of me. The third only looked at the boy in shock. Kakashi decided to tell Hokage-sama about his little talk with the Kyubi. Please, Hokage-sama, come. I want to talk to you for a moment. The third briefly nodded and turned to follow Kakashi out the door. Naruto just turned his back to the door and sat in the same position. The third silently closed the door and let out an exasperated sigh. Kakashi spoke. I had a little talk with the Kyubi earlier. He told me that if Naruto were to remember the village who treated him badly, he would go on a rampage and slaughter all. The third thought about this for a moment. Kakashi continued. He also told me that Naruto is a willing contestant for the Kyubi to take over his body. He actually wants him to take over. Kakashi couldn't even describe the shocked look that now resembled the third's face. He stayed like that until Kakashi snapped him out of it with a hard tap on the shoulder. Hokage-sama just grunted and shook his head. How could he want that monster to take over? The third asked, disbelieving. Kakashi only shrugged and answered, because the Kyubi was the first one to acknowledge his existence. He was the kid's first friend, and he is so grateful to him. He wants to reward the Kyubi with his entire body. The third listened, now less shocked, but still had the unbelieving look on his face. How can I let this happen? I should have done something to make sure that his life was as peaceful and loving as possible. How can I let this happen? It's not entirely your fault, Hokage-sama. We should have told the villagers to lay off their hatred while the boy grew up. We couldn't have dash. There was a sudden blast outside the village that immediately caught their attention. An A&B member came in and said, "We're being invaded." Kakashi nodded and looked at the third, waiting for an answer. The Hokage asked, "Do you have any idea who it is?" "The Akatsuki." Kakashi didn't need any orders when Hokage-sama looked at him that way. Kakashi nodded and disappeared with the ANBU. He sighed outwardly and returned to the room the boy was in. He found a boy curled up on the floor, hyperventilating. Naruto waited patiently, the room seeming to get smaller and smaller. It had been at least 3 days since he's breathed in fresh air, and he found himself panting for no good reason. Naruto was hungry, alone, since Kyubi-sama wasn't speaking to him, and panicking because the room just got smaller. His panting became ragged. The feeling of being slowly crushed and suffocating became more and more apparent as the seconds passed. Soon, Naruto heard a huge explosion, but he didn't care. He needed to get out. The boy curled into a small ball and started to breathe heavier and faster. Soon, his head felt light, but he didn't care. It felt like he wasn't getting enough air. He barely heard someone come in, but he didn't move when someone called his name. He kept trying to breathe and breathe, but it wasn't enough. The third didn't know what was wrong with the boy. It became apparent that the boy was in danger of knocking himself out and have permanent brain damage if he didn't stop. The third put his hand on the seal he had personally set up, and it immediately disappeared. He picked up the now faint Naruto and walked out of the room to an open window. Immediately, the boy stopped breathing hard and he jumped at the window. To the Hokage's own surprise, he didn't run away like he thought the boy would. He just sat on the windowsill and breathed in and out slowly. After a bit, he said very reluctantly, "Thank you, old man. I felt as if I was being crushed in there." The Hokage only nodded, now knowing what was wrong with the boy. He was claustrophobic, only attained through sheer fear or spending your entire life outside. He felt it was the latter. What the hell is going on outside? Naruto brought him out of his thoughts. "We are being invaded for a scroll we have," he answered, looking outside at the massive battle. Before the third could stop him, he said, "This looks like fun," and he jumped out of the window. Naruto left the old man to his thoughts so he could receive his training for the day. A battle this big shouldn't be too hard, since he trained with about 1,000 shadow clones for 2 years straight. He grinned maliciously to himself as he took out 3 ninja that got in his way. Nobody was able to match him for any length of time, but nevertheless, he was enjoying himself immensely. Naruto loved the outside so much that soon he felt a familiar rush and he was suddenly hyper. You never want to fight Naruto when he was hyper. It was the same as driving yourself insane by thinking you were hearing voices. Though he was much worse than that. One time, he drove Kyubi-sama crazy, and it was hard to do that. Naruto was a black and yellow tip blur when seen by the enemy. He had to restrain himself, so he didn't attack Konoha ninja and citizens by accident. He didn't need any more enemies at the moment. Sir, we have reports of a new ninja in the vicinity. He wasn't included in the reports our spies brought back to us, and he arrived only 2.5 days ago. What are our orders about this new threat? Leave him to me. Yes, Itachi-sama, sir. Naruto took out half of the enemy forces and was about to go and help these other Konoha ninja when he felt a powerful chakra signature coming the forest. Naruto grinned and jumped away, roof to roof, until he reached the wall. The boy jumped over cleanly and landed gracefully on the ground on the other side. The chakra signature wasn't far off, but Naruto didn't go cautiously. He didn't care about traps. He walked into a clearing about 5 minutes from the village and saw a figure in the middle of it. Not knowing if he was truly a foe, Naruto didn't attack. The figure stirred slightly and swiftly threw a shuriken at Naruto. Naruto only sighed and disappeared before the kunai hit him. The man twisted to his right and blocked Naruto's kick to his left flank. Naruto jumped away and did several hand signs yelling, "Advanced Shadow, Clone Jutsu." Half of his chakra went into the clone, and both of them attacked. The man was unfazed and fought both of them off with ease. Naruto began to laugh. It was so much fun to fight someone this strong. By the frown on the man's face, Naruto guessed that he surprised him by laughing. Naruto grinned from ear to ear and kept attacking. Soon, Naruto was tiring. This enemy was a lot stronger than Anbu and Orochimaru, that's for sure. The man was panting slightly, but Naruto was beginning to get really tired. Not eating for 3 days taxed your strength a lot. Naruto grinned sheepishly as his stomach suddenly growled, loud enough for the man to hear. Naruto knew he was in trouble, but he refused to back off. The man jumped back and stood still, as if waiting for something. Naruto immediately put up his guard, but was ambushed by at least 20 enemies. Naruto was too tired to evade in time, so he was captured easily. Naruto tried to get away, but he lost too much energy. He could feel his anger rising at an amazing rate, saying, "Let me go." The man ignored the demand and simply looked at him. After a bit, another ninja appeared beside him, and he said, "This is the new guy, right?" "Yes, he is, Itachi-sama." Itachi nodded, pleased. This boy would make an excellent addition to Akatsuki. The boy struggled more, trying to get free. He kept demanding to be let free, but he was too tired to do anything. Itachi heard another growl come from the boy's stomach, and he suddenly realized why the boy was so weak. The boy finally yelled out, "Let me go." Naruto's anger was now going to overflow. He had to get away. His eyes suddenly flashed, and his tails becoming animated. Naruto screamed out in pain, and his eyes turned blood red, looking at Itachi with hunger. "You would do well to let the boy go, Uchiha. His temper is rising, and you would do well to stay on his good side," the Kyubi said, panting. This was rewarded with a look of sudden shock, but it was hidden quickly. The Kyubi only chuckled, using Naruto as a temporary vessel. "It seems to me that we have finally found the Kyubi. You will be coming back with us, for we have many tests to do. The scroll isn't worth anything to us any longer." Naruto snarled, and the Kyubi let him go. The boy was awake, for a change, and his anger consumed him. "Let me go!" he screamed. A huge chakra wave shot outwards from his body, knocking everyone back except for Itachi. Finally free, Naruto jumped into the air and did a couple of hand signs yelling, "Teleportation Jutsu." Their captive disappeared. Chapter 11. Naruto was inside Konoha, the fight apparently over. He saw several Anbu nearby, and the spiky-haired man with them. Jiraiya looked over at where Naruto suddenly appeared, looking a bit shocked at his appearance. Naruto smiled stupidly and then fainted from exhaustion and hunger. Jiraiya saw him smile for some stupid reason and then just collapsed. He leapt away from the group to check on the boy. We got there, however, he didn't have anything to worry about. He had just fainted from exhaustion, and by the feral and obnoxiously loud growl he heard from the kid's stomach, hungry too, Jiraiya just chuckled and picked him up to bring to the hospital. When he got there, Kakashi was standing outside, reading the book he wrote. He put away when Jiraiya approached him with a boy over his shoulder. Kakashi perked an eyebrow and waited for an explanation. Jiraiya motioned for him to follow and went inside. Kakashi was surprised when he saw that Naruto was the one that was slung over his shoulder. Jiraiya gave Naruto to a nurse to be checked over and taken care of, and then sat down at some chairs to explain. We wondered why the invasion suddenly stopped, because I knew that Akatsuki doesn't give up easily. Just then, Naruto appeared out of nowhere and gave me such a stupid grin before collapsing. It looks like he fainted from exhaustion and hunger. Kakashi nodded, now understanding where the boy disappeared to. A thought came to him. Do you think he met up with Itachi? It would explain why he got tired so fast, besides being hungry. Jiraiya nodded, staying silent. Thoughts raced through his mind, and he tried to settle them down. Now that the boy was in a room to recover, he really didn't need to worry. But something was bugging him, and he couldn't place his finger on it. Why did they stop the invasion after Naruto escaped? Did they have plans? Kakashi was wondering the same thing while he sat in a chair near his favorite perverted author of Ica Paradise. He wasn't going to read it yet, because something was nagging at him, too. The boy had to be strong if he did meet up with Itachi and survive, or escaped. Naruto woke up in a brightly lit room under some warm cloths. His clothes were gone and replaced with pure white ones. He looked around and saw his clothes in a pile nearby. He got up and quickly changed, silently noting how clean they looked and fresh they smell. Naruto went to the window and jumped out, landing with ease on the ground. He saw the pink-haired girl from earlier watching him. She came up and said, "Hi, when did you wake up?" "Just recently," Naruto answered, feeling a bit uncomfortable. "Why? How long have I been out?" "Almost 3 days. I heard that you were the one who beat up most of the Akatsuki members and drove them away. Is this true?" She looked at him, positively excited. Naruto was very uncomfortable now. He just nodded, looking for a way out without attracting her attention. All she could do to keep herself from hopping in the air from excitement was to ask Naruto, "Will you train me and Sasuke-kun?" Naruto was so taken aback from the question that he could only look away with annoyance. He had to answer, so he could only say, "Maybe." "One more question. How come you wear those weird bracelets on your arms and legs? The doctors couldn't remove them at all." "They are." Naruto thought about not telling her, but then again, it might get her off his back for the time being. "Weights. Each weighs a certain amount so that I can gain some more speed. The longer I wear them, the stronger and faster I get until I get used to them. Once that happens, I make them heavier." Sakura nodded, understanding, and then gave him one more smile before running off with a small wave and goodbye. Naruto couldn't stay in this weird town. It was seriously creeping him out. He walked in one direction, casually scanning the shadows and streets for anyone nearby. When he found no one at all, he jumped up onto the roof and began to run for the wall, knowing he could jump over it easily. Just before he got to it, however, Kakashi and Jiraiya were standing there, waiting for him. They just appeared, looking serious. "We are not letting you go, Naruto," Kakashi said, looking at his orange book. Naruto just put on a sheepish smile. "Don't even think of using teleportation jutsu, either," Jiraiya said, watching him carefully. Naruto kept grinning, knowing that his special jutsu will allow him freedom from these two. But first, he needed to make shadow clones for himself, so he'll be able to get away. The two frowned at him, clearly expecting something, but not this. Naruto did some hand signs and said, "Shadow Clone Jutsu." Immediately, a bunch of Narutos showed up, completely surrounded the two. All the Narutos grinned wolfishly and did some more hand signs and yelling, "Sexy Jutsu." All the Naruto clones became naked females, and each of them blew a kiss at them. Jiraiya's mouth dropped open by the sudden amount of naked females around him. Kakashi only widened his eye in amazement and a little scared at the sudden mass of naked clones around him. Of course, Naruto escaped when he performed the Shadow Clone Jutsu and made his clones do his special jutsu he made up. Naruto stopped after a bit, then did the teleportation jutsu to go to the village of the waves to retrieve Zabuza and Haku. Naruto appeared 1 mile away from the village and decided he needed some food. He listened carefully, unmoving for any sounds. Soon he caught the scent and heard a rabbit. He grinned evilly and quickly caught his prey. Naruto skinned it and had to fire up in less than 10 minutes, his stomach growling loudly for the food to cook faster. He decided to relax a bit, since Kyubi-sama wasn't there to tell him what to do. Ever since the last transformation, the boy hasn't been able to even feel Kyubi-sama inside of him. This made Naruto very lonely, and he didn't like the feeling at all. He began to think about the village he was at earlier. He couldn't remember the name, and that was okay with him because he didn't really like the place. The boy's thoughts suddenly turned to a certain pink-haired girl that wanted him, a beast and a monster, to teach her. Naruto felt blood rushing to his cheeks when he thought of her smile, but frowned right away. He pushed the picture of her away and tried to sleep. His food wouldn't be ready for a while yet. Then his thoughts went, unbidden, to that Sasuke guy. There was something strange about him, but Naruto couldn't put his finger on it. He found it strange that the kid had no feeling whatsoever in his features. Maybe he had a bad past? Maybe he just hates the world, like Naruto does. Thoughts streamed through the boy's head, rendering him unable to sleep. It confused him to see the pink-haired girl being nice to him, especially when it was him who scared and knocked her out. Naruto scowled, muttering to himself, "Stupid humans." He closed his eyes, feeling himself relax internally, but alert externally. He wondered why every known dangerous group was suddenly interested in him. He tried everything possible to stay unnoticed and out of prying sights that wished to use him. Kyubi-sama even tried his best to make sure he wasn't going to die before ripping every single one of those bastards that hurt him apart. The sweet smell of cooking rabbit filled the air with a succulent smell that filled Naruto's nose with the strong scent of almost ready dinner. Naruto practically shot up in the air in anticipation. It would take another 10 or 15 minutes before he could dig in. He simply couldn't wait for the meat to cook fully, so he snatched it from the heat and bit into it with a gleam in his eye. In about 10 minutes, nothing was left of the rabbit but bones. Naruto was satiated. He didn't need to eat another one because one was good for his shrunken stomach. He got up and swiftly jumped onto a branch, leaving the now dying fire behind. It was way too moist for the fire to spread, so he didn't have any problems. He knew that his appearance would startle Zabuza and Haku, but he hoped to be able to get rid of them easily. He didn't want laggards. He jumped over the wall and from roof to roof until he reached the big mansion. He took some cautionary procedures before clearing the wall. He tried to hide his ears and 8 tails from sight, and he put on some gloves to hide his claws. He couldn't do anything about his eyes, and he tried not to open his mouth unnecessarily. He came to the mansion and opened the front door a bit. He called harshly, "Haku and Zabuza, meet me on the roof." He then shut the door fast and jumped up to the first window. Soon, he got to the roof and sat there, staring at the distance. Zabuza and Haku got there a couple of minutes later, having only finished eating when Naruto called them. He could see some relief on their faces, and he put on a stupid smile. "Naruto, where were you? We thought they wouldn't let you go, but we waited nonetheless," Haku asked, seating himself beside Naruto. Zabuza did the same. A dangerous group called the Akatsuki invaded that miserable excuse for a village, looking for some stupid scroll. That Hokage guy let me out to help defeat those weaklings, and I escaped afterwards. For some reason, they're looking for a way to harvest the power of Kyubi-sama, but they stopped when they found out he was in me. Now I have to lay low for a bit, so I'm not captured. Even the bastard Orochimaru is after me. Naruto grumbled, obviously angered at the fact that he had to hide from his enemies that he so desperately wanted to rip apart. His companions were silent, thinking over the predicament. Naruto only sighed in mock tiredness, trying to figure out a way out of this. He didn't want to endanger his new friends, but he didn't want to leave them. He liked having friends by his side, but as long as they were there, they would only end up being killed. He sighed again and stood up saying, I decided to leave. You're not to follow. Just keep going on missions, but try to find ones that don't involve killing some old man. He chuckled a bit at this. When I'm certain that my enemies are not following or pursuing me anymore, I will return. He walked forward a bit and then turned, Goodbye, my friends. I'll return soon. And he disappeared. Haku and Zabuza could only silently admire him. He was being chased by 3 different groups who will most likely kill him in the end, and he considered them friends. He never called them friends before, and it was quite a shock. They wanted to follow, but knew better than to disobey an order from Naruto when he gave one. It was like saying, Here, you can kill me, and give him a weapon. Zabuza chuckled and stared up into the heavens, looking for an answer to this problem that was centered on Naruto. And now, he was going to use his current knowledge on Naruto to bring him, Zabuza, more allies. Chapter 12. Naruto felt even lonelier than before. He couldn't stay with them, he knew, but he just couldn't help but let the shitty feeling come in his thoughts. He just wanted a nice life where everyone was nice to him and didn't call him monster or ask, What are you? He kept running, hoping to find an answer to some of these problems. Naruto tried once again to contact Kyubi-sama, but he didn't respond. H didn't really expect him to anyway. Giving up on me that easily, are you, fleshbag? Naruto almost tripped on the next branch. He stopped and exclaimed happily in his mind, Kyubi-sama, where were you? How come you wouldn't speak to me? How come those low-life assholes wanted me to remember some stupid things? How come? Silence, fleshbag. I will tell you all, but you have to calm down enough for me to even talk. Naruto settled down immediately, clearly excited about not being alone anymore. Now, when I forced the last transformation on you, I had wasted most of my chakra. I needed to heal and recover my reserves before making contact again. You obviously missed me, fleshbag, because you pounced when I said something. Naruto nodded his head vigorously before saying, I miss you a lot, Kyubi-sama. Those people at that village wouldn't let me go. I had to trick them in order to leave. I didn't know that spiky-haired man, Jiraiya, was such a pervert. Naruto heard a small chuckle. I could have told you that. Now, to the matter at hand. Orochimaru and that organization, Akatsuki, is looking for you. Neither of them are very good candidates for your power. They would both use you for their goals, leaving you to die at any given time. The only choice left is going back to that blasted village. I know you don't like it, but you have no choice. Naruto groaned, but nodded saying, Yes, Kyubi-sama. Naruto talked with Kyubi-sama all the way back to the village hidden in the leaves. He even got Kyubi-sama to admit that he missed Naruto a bit. At this, the boy was glad, but didn't say any more on the topic. Naruto asked why his tails never moved, and Kyubi-sama answered, Because they resent you. You must prove to them you are their masters, and they will listen to your commands. Once this happens, they will protect you at any cost. I cannot make them listen to me. When it comes to you, they have to protect. Naruto only nodded, understanding. It didn't take him long afterwards to reach the village he resented. But instead of jumping over the walls, he went to the front gate, resulting in Jiraiya and Kakashi coming to get him. They brought him to the Hokage's office to talk. Why did you return? He asked, not looking up from his huge stack of papers in front of him. Do I have to have a reason? Be glad I did, so I don't cause havoc and destruction on your citizens and other villages. But I will leave and kill as many people as I can if you put me under that blue thing again. The third didn't even look up but nodded. Naruto felt that there was nothing left to say, so he shrugged and got ready to leave. We're going to keep a close eye on you. If you give us any indication to arrest you, we will put you into a room with that seal again. Am I understood? Naruto just yawned and left, not even answering him. The third just sighed and continued his work. Kakashi shrugged and followed Naruto, wanted to test his abilities. He caught up with Naruto and tapped him on the shoulder. Naruto looked at him in a bored manner and asked, "What do you want, old man?" Kakashi ignored the insult and said, "Why don't you come with me so I can test your abilities? I am very interested." Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly, a clear sign that he didn't trust him. Kakashi waited patiently, his eye crinkled in a smile. Naruto stuck out his lips for a second and then said, "Sure, but bring those two weaklings with you so they could learn a thing or two." "What two?" "You mean Sasuke and Sakura." "Yeah, whatever. Where are we going to go? This little spar is probably going to take out half of Konoha if we fight here." Kakashi only nodded and then said, "Meet me outside the village, 1 mile northeast. They'll give us some privacy and you won't tear up the place." Naruto nodded and disappeared. Kakashi didn't know what he was getting himself into. The boy was waiting for several minutes in the indicated spot before Kakashi did come. Behind him were the two brats that he said he wanted to come. Sakura ran over and said, "Hey, Naruto, are you really going to fight with Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto felt a bit uncomfortable by the enthusiasm, but nodded. This sent her back to Sasuke and relayed the news to him. He only smirked, but looked quite interested. Naruto only stood there, waiting for Kakashi. He didn't have to wait long, but he asked Sakura when she came back with Sasuke, "Hey, Sakura, did you memorize that jutsu I taught you?" Sakura nodded vigorously, a smile on her excited face. "Yeah, I used it to heal the injured during the Akatsuki invasion." "It worked well for you." "Yes." "Where did you learn it?" "From a very powerful sensei." Naruto evaded the question. "Who?" Naruto was about to say something when Kakashi came up and said, "Okay, let's get started. Come, Naruto, you two go near the tree line and wait." Sakura nodded and practically dragged Sasuke back with her. Kakashi only shook his head and then walked to the middle of the clearing. Naruto followed his arms behind his head, a sign that he was officially bored. Kakashi stopped and turned to face Naruto. The boy stopped 10 feet away from Kakashi and waited, his arms still laced behind his head. Kakashi said to Naruto, "We will fight until one person either dies or gives up. If you beat me, I will get Jiraiya to teach you a new jutsu, a powerful one at that." Naruto nodded, waiting patiently. Kakashi nodded back and stood there, waiting. Naruto stared at Kakashi and feigned tired by yawning and stretching. Kakashi fell for it again and tried to hit Naruto. He only twisted to the left and danced away, still stretching. Kakashi disappeared and tried to hit Naruto from the left. Naruto jumped up into the air and did some hand signs, shadow, clone jutsu. A whole bunch of clones appeared and landed on the ground. Kakashi did a quick count and came up with 15 clones. Kakashi dug into his pouch and brought out a bunch of shurikens and threw them. He watched in satisfaction as all the clones disappeared, leaving an empty clearing behind. He looked around, instantly on alert, but he couldn't see anyone else around. Kakashi took one step forward when Naruto suddenly appeared in front of him and delivered a powerful punch to his abdomen. Kakashi doubled over slightly, but before he could retaliate, Naruto disappeared again. Knowing that Naruto was much too fast for his eye to follow, he lifted his Konoha bandana up a bit so his left eye was showing. Right then, Naruto decided to stop behind Kakashi and lace his hands behind his head. Instantly, Kakashi whirled around and kicked out, but Naruto disappeared again. Kakashi looked around with his Sharingan eye and picked out Naruto running left to right, repeatedly in front of him. Kakashi grabbed a kunai and waited for the right moment to throw it. That moment came, and Kakashi swiftly threw the kunai, hitting Naruto in the leg. He only laughed and disappeared, a log falling to the ground. Kakashi realized too late that that was the wrong Naruto he hit. Naruto appeared in front of a bewildered Kakashi and did a roundhouse kick to his face. Kakashi flew 20 feet before arching slightly and landing not quite gracefully on the ground. Naruto grinned wolfishly and disappeared again. Kakashi got up and took a deep breath. The kid was fast, That much was apparent, but how was he able to catch him off guard? Kakashi thought for several seconds while he kept his guard up for Naruto's attack. Right then, Naruto attacked from behind, making Kakashi whirl around, right into Naruto's trap. The real Naruto snuck up behind Kakashi when he turned to face his copy Nin and kicked him forward. This resulted in Kakashi being thrust forward and into the punch of the clone. Kakashi was thrown backwards 20 feet and was punched into the ground by Naruto. He let out a low moan before blacking out. Naruto walked out of the tree line and stood beside Sakura and Sasuke for 2 minutes before they realized he was there. Sakura practically jumped 5 feet in the air when Sasuke suddenly whirled around, revealing where the real Naruto was. Then his face turned into a look of awe and grudging admiration. Sakura looked positively happy and practically pounced on Naruto, offering her congratulations. Naruto said his thanks and walked up to Kakashi's unconscious form on the soft, green grass. He knelt beside him and checked for any serious damage, and when finding none, picked him up and carried him back. They all walked back to the village, but stopped just outside the gate to wake Kakashi up. Naruto left that job to Sakura. Sakura started off by nudging him in the shoulder, calling out his name. When nothing happened, she started to softly, gradually harder, slap his face. Not even that worked. Just when she was about to try something else, Naruto grabbed a kunai and threw it at a nearby tree, and was rewarded at first by confusion on the two Nin's faces. Then the real Kakashi jumped down with Naruto's kunai in hand, a happy look on his face. "You passed, Naruto. You must have trained hard to be able to defeat someone like me, you know?" "Yeah, whatever. Can I go now to learn this new jutsu?" "Sure, but you have to first train these two a bit. They, let's just say, lack in discipline and fighting techniques." Sasuke narrowed his eyes, and Naruto snickered. Kakashi could only watch as the two stared each other down, Naruto smiling like an idiot. Sasuke just smirked and looked away. Kakashi knew he was going to get a headache soon, so he said, "I'll see you guys later then," and he disappeared in a whirl of smoke. Naruto grinned and said, "Alrighty then, time for you two to get back to that clearing we were in earlier, and you have to run on the ground. No jumping into the trees because that's the lazy way." Naruto thought a moment, then his face lit up in excitement. "Oh yeah, and tomorrow I'll have a present for you. Now I'll get going." Sakura nodded and began to run in the direction of the clearing. Sasuke followed suit, knowing he would have to listen to the idiot if he wanted to get stronger. Naruto waited until they were out of sight, and then poured some chakra into his weights, making them 50 pounds heavier. Naruto immediately felt the strain on his newfound weight. He was a grand total of 525 pounds heavier. Naruto didn't complain and began to run. He soon caught up with Sasuke and Sakura and ran past them. They wondered why he was running with them, but decided to wait. He got there before they did and stopped to pretend to catch his breath. They finally came into the clearing and waited for a couple of minutes. Naruto finally stood up straight, wiping some sweat off his forehead before saying, "I must test your abilities before the real training begins, so I will create 2 shadow clones, and you will spar against them. I am warning you that these clones will not disappear when you hit them with something sharp. You are warned." He then did some hand signs and mumbled, "Advanced double shadow, clone jutsu." And then 2 Narutos sprouted from the real one. The real Naruto sat down and gave some orders to his clones. They nodded and ran to the middle of the training field. Naruto looked at the pair and said, "You will pick one to spar with. I will sit here and watch." "Why aren't we going to fight you?" Sasuke asked, smirking. Naruto looked at him with annoyed eyes and said, "Because that was a very advanced jutsu that just took most of my chakra and continues to. When you use that jutsu, depending on how many you make, your chakra will split into equal portions and put into your clones. The longer you stand here talking to me, the more chakra is drained out of me. Now go." Sakura nodded and followed the order. Sasuke only looked shocked, but followed the order grudgingly. Naruto sat back and watched the fighting commence. Chapter 13. Sasuke picked the one on the left, while Sakura picked the one on the right. Sakura's opponent then jumped away and landed farther into the clearing. Sakura followed, and soon they began. Sasuke smirked and activated his Sharingan, which he got quite recently. He swiftly broke out into a run and tried to attack the clone, but it disappeared, only to reappear behind him and deliver a kick. Sasuke stumbled forward a bit and whirled around, throwing a kunai. It kept on flying because the clone disappeared. This time, Sasuke jumped out of the way of an oncoming attack and tried to lash out with his leg. The clone caught it and twisted it, sending Sasuke flying several feet away. Sasuke caught himself and stopped, his hand and left leg buried in the ground to stop himself. Sasuke decided on close combat and ran at the clone. The Naruto clone knew what he was trying to do and met him head-on. They exchanged blows, but Sasuke had the upper hand in the battle, since he was able to almost predict his next moves. Soon, the clone began to lag and grow slow, allowing Sasuke to effectively gain the upper hand and blow him back several yards. The clone landed heavily and didn't get back up. Sakura's battle was worse. She couldn't hit the clone no matter how hard she tried. It kept disappearing and reappearing, hitting her with softened blows so she wouldn't be seriously injured. She tried many techniques and jutsus, but she still could hit him. Then, quite suddenly, she was able to dodge one of his punches and hit him in the abdomen, sending him flying. She called out triumphantly when he didn't get back up. Sasuke heard her cry of triumph, and right then, they disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto appeared beside them, offering his half-hearted congratulations on defeating them when they were so easy. This got them glaring at him angrily. What? They were. They only had a 20th of my power in them, plus I was extremely tired, so I couldn't hold them any longer. That's why they slowed down and didn't get back up. He explained. He smirked then and turned around to run back to the village with them. They followed him tiredly, and when they got back, they noticed that he wasn't breathing heavily at all, which kind of unnerved them. "Why the hell do you stink so much?" Sasuke asked, plugging his nose at his stench. Naruto only faintly smiled, but quickly hid it when he said, "You try having an extra 400 pounds added to your weight and not stink so much, never mind the fact that I haven't had a bath in a long while." This was rewarded with looks of pure shock. Sakura said, "But Naruto-sensei, I thought you said that those weights you have on weighed about 25 pounds each?" Naruto smirked slightly and said, "I just recently added 50 pounds to each, making them all to weigh 75 pounds each. 75 times 8 equals 600, plus my own weight, which equals up to 725. Sakura and Sasuke only looked at him in wonder. He weighed that much, and he was still able to use that jutsu plus run without stopping, and they thought Kakashi-sensei was hard on them. "Now hurry up and get back inside the walls. Dusk approaches," Naruto said, turning around and walking away. Sakura piped up again. "Why are you leaving, Naruto-sensei? Aren't you coming inside too?" Naruto stopped and said, "I'd have nowhere to sleep. There isn't that much trees in there where I would be able to sleep without breaking the branches." "You mean you sleep in trees?" Sakura asked, totally flabbergasted. Naruto looked at them in confusion and nodded. Sasuke's eyes widened in disbelief, and Sakura looked sad. "Why are you guys looking at me that way? I've always slept in trees or on the ground. It's not like there are beds just waiting for you out there." He mumbled, a little annoyed out by the way they were looking at him. "Come on, Naruto. You can stay at my house for tonight," Sasuke said, looking away. Naruto looked stunned, but nodded. "Why would you want me to sleep in the same house as you? I am a monster, and everyone is afraid of me." Sasuke looked amused at this. "Of course they are scared of you, idiot. You could take out all of our ENBU squads and not even break a sweat. I'd be scared too, but I have no reason to be scared of some idiot like you." This made Naruto laugh out loud, a look of pure happiness crossing his face for a moment, then disappearing as fast as it appeared, leaving them wondering if it was actually there in the first place. "Okay, then let's go. It's getting dark fast." After a bit, Sakura waved goodbye and took off. Naruto waved back and continued to follow Sasuke to his house, or rather apartment. Naruto didn't ask which one it was, but simply jumped up and into his room. The place reeked of Sasuke, so it was naturally his. Sasuke came in after him and asked, "How did you know which one was mine?" "The place smells like you, so it's naturally your apartment," Naruto explained, touching his nose. Sasuke only smirked and nodded, walking into the kitchen. Naruto began looking around, seeing only one bed. He followed Sasuke and walked past what looked to be a room with a bowl-shaped white thing in it and a separate part with this metal thing near the ceiling. Naruto went in, curiosity rising. He first went to the bowl-shaped thing, sniffing around. He thought the bowl was for some pet to drink out of, instead of always having to have water put down for them. The water was cold, and Naruto stuck his head further into the bowl, almost touching the water. He gave a small snort and brought his head out. He then turned around and saw a bunch of knobs and such on one wall. He turned some metal things near the middle of the walls, and immediately some water came out of it. Naruto gave a small yelp of surprise, but smiled at his jumpiness. Naruto moved into the middle of the separate little room, and he then saw a small little thing in the middle of the two handle things, so he pulled it out. A whole cascade of water started to pour on him. The water began to get hot in mere second, and soon Naruto was screaming his head off, unable to get out. He was completely soaked, and he kept slipping on the wet floor. Sasuke came immediately, and upon seeing Naruto in his hysterical state, couldn't help it. He began to laugh his head off. Naruto began to scream for help from anyone, his heart racing from the sudden attack by water. Sasuke couldn't stop laughing, and tears were rolling down his face. He finally calmed down enough to pull a soaked and thoroughly scared Naruto from the shower. As soon as Naruto was out of there, he ran into the bedroom and sat in the corner, trying to calm down. Sasuke laughed even harder at this, but managed to shut off the shower completely. "Have fun, Naruto," Sasuke managed to gasp out, still laughing. Naruto gave him a death glare, but finally gave up and gave a meek laugh. Sasuke remembered the last time he laughed like this, but it didn't bother him. What was important now was that he was able to laugh and enjoy it. He finally settled down and asked, "Can I tell Sakura about this? It's just too funny to keep to myself." "No, I don't want anyone knowing about this embarrassing moment." "What was that room anyway? Is it a training area for you?" Naruto asked, his voice slightly raspy. Sasuke chuckled at this and said, "I guess you've never been to a proper bathroom before, have you? That's the room where you do your private business and take a shower to clean yourself." Naruto nodded, finally understanding. He sat there with Sasuke beside him for a while until his stomach began to rumble. Sasuke looked at his stomach, and Naruto gave an embarrassing smirk. "I have to go. I need to find some food to eat." And he got up. "What do you mean go find your food and eat it? I've got tons here." "You really have a cage full of rabbit?" Naruto asked, hopeful. Sasuke frowned. "You eat rabbit?" Naruto nodded vigorously. "It's not like there are supermarkets out in the wild, you know." Sasuke nodded at this. He got up and said, "Follow me, and I'll prepare something for you. It's not rabbit, but it will suffice for now." Naruto looked confused but followed. Sasuke led him past the bathroom and into the kitchen. He then told him to sit and wait. Naruto did so and immediately broke the chair he was on. That scared the heck out of Sasuke, since he wasn't expecting it. Naruto's cheeks turned several shades of red before getting up and picking up the pieces. "I knew that it would be a bad idea to come here," he said. Sasuke could only try to breathe. After a bit, he said, "It's okay, Naruto. It's just a chair. I'll pay you back for it. How about that?" Naruto took out a bulging wallet. 2,500 Rias. Sasuke's jaw dropped. 2,500? Where the hell did he get that much? Sasuke only nodded and mentally shrugged. Naruto handed him the specified amount and put the still bulging wallet away. "Where in Konoha did you get that much?" he asked, putting the money away. Naruto just grinned and told him. Sasuke had to hold the look of surprise hidden behind his ever-present emotionless mask. Naruto smirked and put his still bulging wallet away. Sasuke turned back around and finished with their food. He brought them to the table and slid one to Naruto and began to eat. Naruto only stared at the stuff in the bowl, recognizing the smell as ramen. He brought his head closer and sniffed again. Nodding once, he began to lap it up, tasting it. At this point, Sasuke looked up from his food and, seeing what Naruto was doing, began to choke on his share of ramen. "You really are weird," Sasuke stated, handing a blinking Naruto a set of chopsticks. Naruto accepted them without a word and began to mimic Sasuke in its use. Soon, he had the bowl done and asking for another one. Sasuke told him how to make it, and he went to bed. Naruto made another 5 bowls before walking into Sasuke's room and plopping down in the corner, fast asleep. When Naruto woke up, Sasuke was still asleep. He smiled slightly before getting up and jumping out of the window. He looked around for a while until he finally found the weapons store. There, Naruto walked in and began to look around. The storekeeper was a beautiful shinobi with her hair into tight buns on top of her head. She had beautiful brown eyes, but they were darkened when Naruto walked in. She looked absolutely pissed at something, but it wasn't Naruto's business, so he didn't ask. He gathered some kunai, shurikens, exploding tags, and numerous other things, and brought them to the counter to be paid for. The girl quickly tallied up the total, and Naruto paid for it, his wallet still bulging. He left the shop before she could make a comment on his large wallet and continued to look for the clothes store. He found it quickly and bought some training clothes, and to his surprise, they had chakra weights in stock, so he bought some of those too. When he got back to the apartment, Sasuke was up and eating some breakfast. Naruto put down the bags he was carrying and joined him, asking him how he would be able to use the shower without getting killed. Chapter 14. They soon met up with an excited pink and red Sakura. Naruto cringed at her attire, it practically screaming out, "Kill me." He gave Sakura her training clothes and waited for her to get back. Sasuke and Naruto were already in their training clothes consisting of blues and blacks. Naruto was wearing a black muscle shirt and black pants, held up by a simple cloth belt. His arms were bare, which showed his weights off, but to anyone else who didn't know what they were, they looked like black rings. His hair was a blonde knotted mop on his head, but he had a black bandana around his neck if he needed it to cover his hair. He wore black combat shoes with some black painted metal as the soles. His pouch was located on his left hip, and he had a weapon pouch on his right leg and left forearm, just underneath the weight placed there. Sasuke was dressed the same, but he had his Konoha bandana on his forehead. He had blue designs on his black pants along with a baggy dark blue shirt. He wore his pouch on his right hip and a weapon pouch on his left forearm. He also wore the same shoes as Naruto was, but less metal on the bottom. When Sakura arrived, she was wearing a black long sleeve shirt that was cut on each shoulder to show some skin. Most of her hair was hidden underneath a black bandana with her Konoha bandana on top of it. She wore black capris with women's combat shoes. She also wore a loose, cut on both sides, skirt over her capris that came down to about an inch over her knees. She looked noticeably deadlier and somewhat unearthly. She smiled at Naruto and Sasuke before he gave them their weights. They put them on in their designated spots, and Naruto had them put some weight into them using their chakra. Sasuke made all his weights weigh 25 pounds each. Sakura's weights were slightly lighter, about 20 pounds each. Naruto gave them a small smile before putting an extra 25 pounds on his. Then he motioned for them to start running, and they made their run to the clearing they were in yesterday. Yet again, Naruto made 2 shadow clones and used them against Sakura and Sasuke as sparring partners. Naruto himself went through his regular training exercise program, minus the sparring part. They made some improvements today, but Sakura needed to form some more muscles and improve on her taijutsu technique. Sasuke only needed to improve his growing speed. They were both exhausted by the end of the day, but Naruto made them jog all the way back to Konoha. When they got back, Sakura asked, "Naruto-sensei, how come we have to leave the village to train?" Naruto caught his breath and replied, "For several reasons, but I am only going to tell you 2 of them. 1. By leaving the village, you are forced to be on constant alert of any approaching chakra signatures. This will allow you to heighten your basic senses the hard way. 2. I don't want anyone spying on my training with you too, if I can help it. This will give you the element of surprise to your enemies. They both nodded, finally understanding. They began their training, this time getting more and more battered and bruised. Several hours later, when the sun was about to set, three figures came in view, running tiredly. They were let in without trouble, and Naruto spent another night at Sasuke's house. In the morning, they did the same thing, except Naruto began to teach them advanced taijutsu, something they worked at nonstop. Sakura finally put her crush for Sasuke aside to focus on training. Was Sasuke ever pleased about this? Time skip, 3 months later. Once again, they were out in the same clearing, sparring against Naruto's advanced clones. They had gotten increasingly better. Sasuke had gotten the second level of his Sharingan, and Sakura is finally getting respect from Sasuke. All she really needed to do was to leave him alone and not be a fangirl. Naruto conversed with Kyuubi a lot. The Ninetales finally revealed some of his past to Naruto, but kept a lot back. He was contemplating on when he would take over the boy's body, but Naruto has gotten increasingly interesting. He actually has feelings for the pink-haired girl named Sakura. This brought forth an ominous chuckle from Kyuubi, but no matter how hard Naruto tried, he could not get the reason behind the weird chuckle. The Chunin exams were coming up soon, and Naruto was not all excited. All he wanted to do was to learn the jutsu from the perverted arrow Sennin and take his leave. But every day that he is with these two, he can't bring himself to even think about leaving. They had become the friends he never thought he would have. Now he was going soft, and he beat himself up for it. One day, Naruto told his students to train in one of the training grounds inside the village's walls because he was going somewhere. They looked at him suspiciously, but complied. Naruto turned back and headed outside the gates, making sure to make it clear to the guards of his purpose. Him not being officially part of the village, they had no choice but to let him do what he wanted. Naruto left Konoha in the dust as he moved with impossible speeds. His current weight was now over 2,000 pounds. This meant that he had 250 pounds on each, plus his growing weight of 160 pounds. That came up to a grand total of 2,160 pounds. He was going a fast little bugger when he decided to take them off, that's for sure. He soon came up to another village, but that wasn't his stop. He continued on, straining his senses as far as they will go. He soon caught the unmistakable scent of blood. He veered to his right and made his way to the battle scene. There were at least 50 bodies and about 100 more men surrounding a teenager who was badly beaten. No tears on her face, just gashes and bruises. No part of her body was good enough to pass over if someone was to heal her. The men laughed menacingly, and some were beginning to unbuckle their belts. Why are a bunch of cowardly men taking on such a small, innocent girl? Naruto asked to no one in particular, catching the men's attention. They looked over at him and sneered. None of them were shinobi by the way they held themselves, and all of them had a pitiful amount of killer intent leaking out of them. They tried to surround him, but he was too fast and appeared beside the girl. She looked up hopefully before passing out. Naruto reached into his leg pouch and drew out a bunch of senbon. He threw them with unbeatable accuracy and speed that in mere seconds, they were all dead. He kneeled down beside the girl and began to heal her, careful to not mess up. After that was done, he made a small fire and laid her down beside it. She looked to be about 10 years of age with long, red hair, the color of blood. Her clothes were torn and ripped in several places, and both her shoes were gone. She looked really cute in a way, but he had just saved her, and he needed to know if she was going to be okay. A while later, she woke up with a start, only to find her savior cooking some delicious-looking fish. Her stomach growled loudly in anticipation, and she gave an embarrassed smile at his raised eyebrow. He gestured to the fish and looked away on watch. She gave another small smile and began to carefully eat the fish. It was delicious. "What is your name?" she asked after she was done. He looked at her then and gave a small smile. "My name is Naruto," he replied. "What is yours?" "Kira Axel of the Axel clan," she answered, a sad smile on her face. "Is your clan still alive? Do you want me to bring you back to them?" Naruto asked. His bright, clear blue eyes were watching her. "Yes, they're alive. but I don't want to go back. Those men who attacked me were some villagers that work for my family. My mother ordered me dead because my father is no longer alive and no one to protect me. I ran and fought them off, but was about to get raped. She shuddered at the thought. Until you came along and killed them. I humbly thank you. Naruto nodded and studied her. Well then, where will you go? I know not. Nobody want a clam-less street urchin in their homes. Naruto only nodded, understanding. He was in the same predicament before, but not now. He thought for some time, until he came to a decision. Come back to Konoha with me and the old man. There will definitely give you a job and someplace to live. It's your choice, and I cannot force you to do something you don't want to. She smiled a bit and nodded. Naruto nodded back and stared into the flames, deeply in thought. She finally lay down and slept. Naruto was racing through the trees, Kira's limp form on his back. He was finished with his business earlier on, and now he was about an hour away from Konoha. She probably wouldn't wake up for a while, so he decided to carry her. Her wounds were all healed, thanks to him, and she was sleeping peacefully. He wondered why she was hated by her own mother. If she was truly from the Axel clan, she should have a fearsome bloodline limit. He'll ask her later when she wakes up. Kit, you need to hurry. I sense something is wrong. There might be an attack on that worthless village. Hurry up. Yes, Kyubi-sama. Naruto picked up his speed greatly and raced for Konoha. It only took him 15 minutes to reach the gate, and another 2 seconds to jump onto the wall to see what was going on. There were a few fires, but only minor, and several battles were going on. Naruto made sure that Kira wasn't going to fall off, and he took off toward the Hokage Tower. Once there, he entered the office and set Kira down on a chair. What are you doing here, Naruto? Who is that? The third asked, looking extremely disheveled. How do you too, old man? She is an Axel. They banished her when her father died, and I saved her from 100 men from raping her. Will you please take care of her until I get back? Okay. The attack that is going on is by Orochimaru, I think. You'd better be careful. He is one of the dash. He didn't get to finish because Naruto jumped out of the window. He sighed and rubbed his forehead, a migraine coming on. Naruto landed on the ground with grace and stretched his senses as far as he could. He stood there for several minutes and finally found a huge chakra signature coming from the eastern side. He smirked and ran towards them. When he got there, the pervert Jiraiya, Sasuke, Sakura, Orochimaru, and several unknown shinobi were facing off against each other, or rather, staring each other down. Naruto entered the training field, and everyone looked at him. Why did you start the party without me? Chapter 15. Naruto smirked as he walked over to where Sasuke, Sakura, and the perverted Sannin, Jiraiya were. Miss me? He asks, not really caring if there were enemies near. They only smiled at him, except Sasuke, who only smirked. Naruto turned back to the real problem at hand and said, Orochimaru, did you like the present I gave you on our last encounter? Naruto-kun, how nice of you to join us. This makes things so much easier. He cackled gleefully, eyes never leaving Naruto's neck. Naruto being unnerved is a bit of an understatement. Let's just get this over with, he said, going into an unfamiliar taijutsu stance. Everything was still, nothing moved. The minutes went by, but still nothing moved. Sasuke, being the impatient type, moved first. He created a Chidori and hurled himself at one of Orochimaru's soundings. Naruto went after Orochimaru himself, creating several shadow clones. Orochimaru grinned maniacally and performed a bunch of hand signs, biting his thumb and calling out, summoning jutsu. A huge puff of smoke appeared, forcing Naruto to stop where he was. He heard some hissing coming from the smoke, but that didn't stop him. He went through a series of hand signs and shouted, Element Air, Giant Hurricane Sweep. All the smoke cleared, and right there, fighting the air current, was a huge snake. Orochimaru stood on top, or at least he used to. He was being pummeled by the sheer force of the wind. Naruto sneered, and with inhuman speeds, he ran up to Orochimaru and began his assault. While he was busy with Orochimaru, Jiraiya was keeping Mana busy. Sasuke and Sakura was more than a match for the sound needs, so they weren't worried. Orochimaru went through a series of signs and yelled out, "Gant Snake's Horde." A whole bunch of snakes came out of his mouth and sleeves, moving with great speed towards Naruto. But he was too fast for them. He nimbly dodged them and went through some hand signs, yelling, "Advanced Shadow Clone Jutsu." 3 Naruto clones appeared and advanced on Orochimaru. He sneered and did another summon. This time, a smaller but more agile snake appeared. Orochimaru already knew which one was the real one, so he left the summon to deal with them. He swiftly lashed out with his leg, but Naruto caught it. He threw it aside and tried to punch him back, but missed. Cursing, Naruto went through his most basic taijutsu moves, mixing them with his more advanced ones, making a blend of new moves. It still wasn't enough. Orochimaru sent chakra to his fist and threw it at Naruto. Naruto brought his arms up and across to block it, but Orochimaru changed direction and hit him in the face. Naruto reeled back a few feet and tried to recover, but Orochimaru took the advantage. His teeth grew longer and his neck became longer. He headed straight at Naruto, but he disappeared before Orochimaru could get there, and he looked to and fro for Naruto. Naruto felt him get grabbed suddenly and moved to a different location. He opened his eyes and saw that it was in Kira's arms. He grunted as they landed, and Kira put him down. "Thanks," he says, and runs at Orochimaru again. He fell into an unfamiliar stance and began to throw some punches and kicks at him. He moved fluidly, not even thinking about the next move. Orochimaru could only dodge some of them, not being able to tell his next move. Naruto grinned in triumph as he hit Orochimaru in the face again. Racing after the flying snake, he punched him again, but his hand was caught by his. Naruto threw his other hand, and Orochimaru caught it too. Naruto scowled and pulled him forward, head-butting him. He lashed out with his leg, sending him in the air. Naruto smirked and jumped up, creating several shadow clones. They then surrounded him completely and began to punch the snake to another clone. The real Naruto was holding his right wrist with his left hand, a ball of dark red energy forming. He smirked in triumph as the ball was finished and Orochimaru fell to the ground. Orochimaru landed, panting slightly, and looked at Naruto with dark, almost brown eyes. Naruto began to run at him, his right arm trailing behind him. Orochimaru looked shocked, but quickly recovered and ran at Naruto. "Kitsune Rasengan," yelled Naruto, almost upon Orochimaru, brought his dark red hand up and hit Orochimaru square in the chest, and then quickly turned and slashed at another Orochimaru who had snuck up on him. They both dissipated and Naruto's right arm hung limp at his side. That particular move had a disadvantage. It left the arm used for the attack completely immobile and unable to use for an hour. Naruto swayed slightly, but remained vigilant, knowing Orochimaru was still alive. He checked out the other battles going on and saw that they were faring well. He whirled around at the last second and deflected a barrage of shurikens. He ran at Orochimaru and, using one hand, punched at him. Orochimaru dodged and jumped up into the air. Naruto jumped back as he began to do some one-handed signs, finishing with a element earth, great boggy swamp. The ground became mud and started to stink. Orochimaru couldn't clear it in time, so he got stuck up to his knees. Naruto smirked devilishly and sent chakra to his feet to walk on top. He ran forward and kicked Orochimaru in the face, making him careen backwards. He whipped back up and punched Naruto. He blocked it and flipped over him to get behind. He did some signs and mumbled, "Earth compress." The ground became hard, tight, and the experience was painful for Orochimaru. He grimaced in pain and made his body long, like a snake. He got out of the ground and, low to the ground, practically slithered at Naruto. Naruto backed off a bit and then jumped over him, completing some signs as he yelled out, "Fire release! Great Phoenix Flare!" He took a deep breath and sent out huge fireballs that were in the shape of great birds, phoenixes. They swept down towards Orochimaru, shrieking at high-pitched tones, but Orochimaru was ready. Completing seals of his own, he called out, Element water. Raging water dragon. The dragon and the phoenixes collided, making the area cover in steam. Naruto couldn't tell where Orochimaru was, since the steam was messing with all his senses. Orochimaru came running at him, making sure to stay close to the ground. Naruto took out more chakra out of his weights, making him lighter and faster. He waited, poised for Orochimaru. Kira also saw the great dragon and the phoenixes clash together, making steam. She couldn't believe that Naruto had that much chakra. She activated her bloodline limit as she felt a presence near. Her entire body became slick as a black substance covered her body. She smirked and ran towards the direction Naruto was last at. She was tackled from her left, but she slid out of the grasp easily and did a simple fire jutsu on the Nin. He burst into flames as he cried out in agony. She kept on running. Naruto felt someone coming towards him, but he faintly caught the scent of oil and fire. He waited, not sure if friend or foe. He didn't have to wait long until Kira came into view, as the steam was slowly disappearing. She was a dark brown color. He wondered what was on her until she came up to him. He sniffed her and then almost fainted with the strong scent. "What in God's name do you have on?" he asked, covering his nose. "It's my bloodline limit. You'll see more of it, just wait," she replied, looking beyond him. He suddenly pushed her out of the way as Orochimaru came barreling past. He shot snakes out of his arms as he passed, which automatically attached themselves to Naruto's legs and arms, one on his neck. He grunted in pain, the venom seeping into his wounds from the snake's teeth. "I hate snakes," he seethed and ripped them off. He sensed danger right then and jumped out of the way in the nick of time. A huge snake almost slithered into him, a white-haired man running after the snake. Naruto cursed the toad hermit as he was hit in the stomach by Orochimaru. He was shot further into the air, and somehow Orochimaru got up there before he did. He brought both his hands up and slammed Naruto back down to earth. Naruto landed on his back, making a huge crater. He got up on tired legs and jumped back, just as Orochimaru tried to land on him. Doing several back flips to get out of reach, Naruto tried to move his arm, but it wouldn't work. He cussed silently, waiting for Orochimaru to come out of that crater. He did, and approached Naruto calmly. Naruto bared his fangs, which grew slightly longer, and he growled, it coming from his gut. "What the hell do you want, Orochimaru?" Naruto spat, seething. "I want a lot of things, Naruto-kun. I want the things I can't get even more." He licked his lips tauntingly. "I can't even train and become stronger in peace without someone coming to me and trying to get me to join their club in return for power. I am the vessel of the almighty Kyuubi no Kitsune, for crying out loud. I've got all the power I want," he yelled, tails flaring behind him. He glanced back at them, and then at Orochimaru, smirking. "You want to see my full potential? Fine. You're digging your own grave," he screamed, eyes glowing blood red, his chakra spiking to unimaginable levels. "Have fun, Kyuubi-sama. Rip his throat out," Naruto thought, letting Kyuubi have the controls. "I will fleshbag. No need to tell me twice," Kyuubi replied, crouching. Naruto /Kyuubi shot forward faster than sound. He pounded Orochimaru's head in, and then punched him in the gut, making him double over in pain. Not giving him time to recover, Naruto /Kyuubi kicked him in the ribs, cracking all on impact. Orochimaru screamed in pain as he shot to the left, going through several trees, until he stopped. His ribs healed themselves, using much of his chakra. Orochimaru picked himself up and blocked a kick from Naruto. Scowling, Orochimaru quickly grabbed his throat. Holding Naruto far away enough to not get out of his grip, Orochimaru spread his free hand out. Several blue orbs appeared at each fingertip, and Orochimaru sneered. He pressed his hand painfully into Naruto's stomach, making him grunted painfully. The chakra diminished a bit, and Orochimaru kicked Naruto back into the clearing. Naruto landed in his back, very dizzy. Orochimaru advanced on him, wiping blood off his face. Right before he got to Naruto, a girl with a bunch of oil on her tried to kick Orochimaru. He dodged it in time and scowled at the knee. Kira smirked and ran back at him, using a strong taijutsu form. He blocked and dodged most of her attacks, a plan forming in his mind. He punched her hard enough to send her back several feet, and he did some hand signs, element fire, flash flare. He took a small breath and sent it hurtling at her. She didn't have time to dodge, and her body caught fire. Orochimaru smiled maniacally, but then frowned as he heard laughing coming from the girl. She looked like a raging inferno, the oil making sure the fire stay lit. Did you really think that we would be weak against fire because we were covered in oil? You disappoint me, Orochimaru. She laughed, running at him. He gaped for a moment, and then recovered, blocking her kick. The impact left a really bad burn on his arm. No matter how hard he tried to block the damage, it still left a nasty burn. Going on the offensive, he did a roundhouse kick to her face, grimacing at the burn as she flew into the forest. Hurriedly, he ran to the limp body of his prize, picked him up, and studied his face for a moment. Smirking in triumph, he opened his mouth and bit his neck. Chapter 16. Poof! The Naruto in Orochimaru's grasp disappeared, to be replaced with a log. Realizing what it is he is biting, Orochimaru pulls away and literally shreds it to pieces. He was mad. No, beyond mad. No one makes a fool out of him. One of the legendary Sannin, Prince of Snakes. Realizing just how hard it has suddenly become to capture his latest interest, Orochimaru sounded a retreat and sank into the earth. The surviving sound, Nins also retreated, which was two. They were badly injured and just managed to escape. Naruto waited until he could no longer sense Orochimaru's chakra, and then promptly sank to his knees. Kira finally recovered and came barreling into the clearing. She caught sight of Naruto and ran to him to check if he was okay. Sasuke, who looked very battle-worn, Sakura, who looked worse off than Sasuke, and Jiraiya, who looked like he had the life squeezed out of him by Manda, calmly walked back to where Naruto was. When they came within a 10-foot radius of the QB vessel, his tail suddenly shot up and became stat-icky. Stopping where they were, they watched Naruto expectantly. Naruto, who was the worst out of all of them, just kneeled there, waiting for the healing abilities to kick in. After several minutes, his wounds began to close slowly but surely. His breathing became smoother, and his tails finally settled down. Another 10 minutes passed before the tails stopped moving altogether, save the slight twitch. Naruto stood up and looked at each of them, his eyes resting on Sakura the longest. Inhaling deeply, Naruto fixated his eyes on Jiraiya and said, "You need to train me. I have a lot of power, but I do not know how to use it properly. That snake bastard will come back, and I need to be able to defeat him with ease." Jiraiya looked surprised but nodded. "Does this mean you won't be training us anymore?" Sakura asked, eyes turning a deep emerald. Naruto looked at Sakura and shook his head. "No, you will be joining me. Orochimaru is up to something, and you two need to be at your strongest." His attention was back on Jiraiya. "If you agree to this, without taking breaks to do your infamous research, I will show you a great jutsu I made up that will be a great asset to your book." A lecherous grin appeared on Jiraiya's face, but he said, "Can you show me now?" "No, in private. This jutsu is not for young eyes that have yet to even think about reading your book. Meet me at the old man's office tomorrow, and I will show it to you then." "Is it the one and the same jutsu you used on me and Kakashi?" Jiraiya asked, hope in his eyes. Naruto nodded. Jiraiya never looked as happy as he did now. He jumped in the air so many times, you would think he was on some drug. He literally kissed Naruto's feet in thanks, and to the QB vessel's embarrassment, the perverted Sannin tried to hug him. Thankfully, his tails reacted in time and almost neutered the guy. "Come now. We have preparations to do. Sasuke, Sakura, let's go." They both nodded and left Jiraiya in the clearing to daydream. Swaying his tails daintily, Naruto was fixing himself some instant ramen. In the past couple of months, he had become increasingly addicted to the stuff. Sasuke was out, visiting his old estate, which was practically rotting, and Sakura was shopping. Pouring the hot water into the cup, Naruto sealed the thing and walked into the bathroom to relieve himself. After he was done, he washed his hands, dried them, and then returned to a finished bowl of miso ramen. Inhaling it quickly, Naruto threw away the empty bowl and walked into the bedroom. Going to the window, he jumped out and quickly sent chakra to his feet so he could wall walk. Changing his direction, Naruto walked up the wall and onto the roof. Quickly, but lazily, Naruto made his way to the Hokage's office. Anyone who saw him running would immediately assume they saw a fox. Naruto made no attempt to conceal his tails, since most of Konoha has already seen them. The only time he would hide them was if he wanted to buy some stuff from a store. Naruto immediately began to walk up the Hokage tower and through the window to the Sandame's office. Jiraiya was already there, and the third was doing some paperwork. Not bothering to announce his arrival, Naruto sat down in a chair and waited patiently. Seeing the Hokage's grim, tired, and frustrated face, Naruto decided to help the old man out. He didn't know why, but he felt compelled to help the old geezer out. Why don't you create some shadow clones and get them to do the bloody paperwork? Getting too old to do a simple jutsu. Well, the compelling emotion to help the old geezer didn't say he couldn't tease him or taunt. Sarutobi looked up at Naruto, surprise and understanding showing on his face. Jiraiya began to chuckle and wondered aloud. Why didn't I come up with that? Maybe because your head is in the clouds, your manhood runs free, and you're dense? Naruto offered, smirking. The Sandame burst out in laughter, and Jiraiya turned a bright pink. Then, his face turned a dark crimson color, and steam shot out his ears. Why, you little brat, show some respect to your elders. Jiraiya screamed at Naruto. Naruto just smirked some more and replied, What? Not in your prime anymore, Arrow Sennin. Yet again, steam came out of Jiraiya's ears at his new nickname. The third just laughed harder, unable to hold back the fact that the great toad hermit, Jiraiya, was being told off by a teenager. Brat, if you know what's good for you, you will shut your mouth up. Jiraiya warned him, his fists clenched tightly. Giving out empty threats, Arrow Sennin. I thought the great toad hermit everyone respects would be a serious Sannin, instead of a pervert like you. Naruto shrugged off the killer intent that was directed at him. Jiraiya only got angrier. Yet again, Naruto smirked, oh, can't take a simple jest, Arrow Sennin-sama. This time, Jiraiya launched himself at Naruto. Smiling sadistically, Naruto completed some hand signs and mumbled sexy jutsu. Immediately, Naruto changed into a seductive, attractive, mature, long-haired, naked, blonde that had curves to kill for, breasts that were just the right size, radiant skin, and deep, ocean blue eyes. Jiraiya was suddenly shot backwards with speeds that could shame the Yondaime and crashed into the opposite wall. Naruto heard another crashes and turned to see the Sandaime with a massive nosebleed and was unconscious. Jiraiya was also unconscious with an even bigger nosebleed and a lecherous expression. Naruto sighed and let the jutsu go. Why does there have to be such big perverts in the world? He asked himself, not really expecting an answer. Because some humans are so desperate and lonely that all they have is little orange books to, read. QB trailed off. Naruto shrugged and sat back down on the chair he was in earlier. I wonder if I went too far with that one. Nah. Sasuke was currently walking down the street, a highly annoying Sakura, because him. He was relieved when she stopped trying to ask him out about a week ago, but was also puzzled as to why. He wasn't going to ask. He stopped when he sensed a familiar chakra signature coming towards them. Shutting Sakura up, he waited for Naruto to arrive. Not long after, Naruto jumped down beside Sakura. Hey! Oh, hey Naruto-kun, Sakura chirped and latched herself on his arm. This surprised both shinobi, but Naruto found that he didn't mind it too much. Hey, Sakura-chan, Sasuke ready for training? Naruto asked. They nodded and began to walk towards the gates. Naruto stopped them and explained, not for a while. We will train inside the village for now, until we are certain there is no enemy activity going on. I don't want you guys being used to get to me. Okay, Sakura agreed. Let's go get something to eat first. Please. Sure. You up for some ramen, Sasuke? Naruto asked, his and Sakura's stomachs growling loudly. HN was all he got in response. Naruto led the way, Sakura still latched onto his arm. And not minding Sakura hugging his arm was bugging him. He never liked being touched, whether it is a simple gesture or to a playful slap on the back. The reason why? It crowded and diminished his personal space. And he did love his personal space. Sakura was trying to start a conversation with Sasuke when they passed by a flower shop. Naruto cringed when he heard an excited screech and his other arm being occupied. Hey, Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun, and Dilev. Ino greeted, getting a glare from Sakura. But before she could retort, Naruto pulled his arm away from Ino and replied, Hey, Ino-san, what's up? She seemed a bit hurt that he pulled his arm away, but answered nonetheless, Oh, just helping my parents with the shop today. What are you guys up to? Ino then stood beside Sasuke. Sasuke, on another note, was even more relieved when Ino didn't attack him to get his arm. Going for some ramen, wanna come? Naruto replied, smiling faintly. Sorry, can't. I'm not off work until late today. Wanna go out with me tomorrow? Ino asked hopefully. Naruto shook his head and said, Sorry, Ino-san, but we're going to be busy with training for the upcoming Chunin exams in a month. Ino looked saddened again, and Sasuke felt a small pang in his chest. But almost as soon as she looked down, Ino sprang back up and smiled sweetly. Okay, Naruto-kun. What about you, Sasuke-kun? I'm busy, he replied shortly. Ino nodded and waved goodbye to them. Sakura was wondering why Naruto pushed Ino Pig away when she grabbed his arm. He didn't push her away, not that she was complaining. Come on, let's go. I am starved, Sakura announced and began to lead. Naruto chuckled and followed, with Sasuke in their wake. Chapter 17. Time skip, 2 weeks. Sakura-san, you are doing it all wrong. Like this. Naruto corrected Sakura's seals and stood back. She looked slightly disheveled from the training, and Sasuke looked alike he hasn't done much. Sakura nodded, frowning slightly as she corrected her mistake and tried again. Naruto turned to Sasuke to see how he was faring, and it looked like he had the new fire jutsu Naruto showed him. He smirked at Naruto and completed the seals, gathering oxygen in his lungs before blowing out a huge, white-hot dragon. Naruto clapped once and noticed how far down the sun was. Okay, complete 50 laps around Konoha, and you'll be done for today, Naruto instructed and left the grounds. Sakura yelled a farewell to Naruto and followed Sasuke, keeping a small conversation with him. Naruto headed towards the springs to have a nice soak. Hey, Kyubi-sama, will you teach me something new soon? Naruto asked, walking at a leisurely pace. Of course, Fleshbag. I don't want an outclassed weakling anymore. That godforsaken snake won't know what hit him the next time we come across him. That's for sure. Kyubi grumbled, remembering how close his vessel came to receiving that cursed seal. Something seemed off about his aura, though, as if he met him once before. Grumbling again, Kyubi shut off that train off, though, and an idea came to mind. Fleshbag, didn't that perverted scarecrow say that he could get someone to teach you something? Naruto didn't falter in his stride, but was surprised that it had slipped his mind. Shit, it completely slipped my mind. Naruto mentally berated himself, careful as to not let anything of the sorts accidentally hurt Kyubi. Well, you have one smart vessel, Kyubi-sama, Naruto stated, but not changing directions. It seems so, Fleshbag. You will receive some kind of punishment for it. I have yet to think one up. Naruto flinched. Kyubi-sama's punishments were not humane, to say the least. It happened every time he failed to follow orders, instructions, failed to listen at all, or completely missed any clues Kyubi was laying out for him. Naruto nodded, finally seeing the hot springs. Just as he was about to enter the men's section, he heard small, perverted giggles coming from the female side. Curiosity got the better of him, and he went to check it out. What he say made his face blanch and his eye twitch. The white-haired man that had captured him on that mission was there, looking into a peephole and writing down something on a notepad. With Naruto's enhanced eyesight, he saw a bunch of naked female drawings along with hordes of pencil and eraser shavings. Scowling, Naruto silently used his sexy jutsu and screamed at the top of his lungs, "Pervert!" Jiraiya looked at him suddenly and paled noticeably. He paled even more when he recognized Naruto and began to run away from the naked population of the hot springs. Naruto threw a kunai at Jiraiya's leg and watched with a pleased expression as Jiraiya fell flat on his face. That's all it took for the naked females to catch up and dish out their punishment for perverts. Naruto strode behind a tree and let the jutsu go. Putting a bandana over his eyes to act like blindfold, he followed the cursing of the angry Kunoichi. Naruto smiled slightly and gave a shrill whistle to catch their attention. "I think he has been punished enough, Kunoichi-senpai. Can I have Ero-sennin back, please?" Naruto asked, his arms crossed on his chest, and he was leaning against a tree. He felt the air around them tense for a moment, but relax a bit when they saw him blindfolded. "Well, at least he has some sense as to not peek on us while we were busy," one remarked, giving the motionless Jiraiya a kick in the ribs. "I would not dream of it, Kunoichi-senpai," Naruto replied, a small smile gracing his features. If only the rest of the male population were a bit like you. Maybe then this place would be a bit better. That way, fewer men would have to be castrated." Another sighed, walking back to the springs. Naruto heard a few grunts of agreement. Some didn't answer, but simply walked away. Naruto waited until they were all gone before taking off his blindfold and shoving it into his pocket. "You know, Ero-sennin, you should respect the female population more. All this peeking you're doing is going to come and bite you in the ass someday." Naruto deadpanned, squatting down near Jiraiya. Said pervert opened his uninjured eye and sluggishly regarded the teen. "What's it to you if I don't?" he demanded, sitting up. Naruto's eyes became walls of ice as he responded in a monotonous tone, sending shivers down Jiraiya's spine. "I am sure Tsunade-sama hates perverts with a passion similar to mine, Ero-sennin. Fleshbag, he is the one your father was trained by. Get him to teach you the normal Rasengan and the body flicker jutsu. They will be useful in the future." "Yes, Kyubi-sama." Naruto watched Jiraiya's face become paled as the blood rushed from his face. A look of pure terror entered his eyes as he asked in a low whisper, "How do while you know about Tsunade H-heim? Please don't tell her. I'll do anything." Jiraiya begged, getting on his knees. Naruto chuckled darkly and replied, "You have to teach me the normal Rasengan and the body flicker jutsu. And, teach me, not tell me what to do and disappear. I also want your summoning contract. Your punishment is negated for now, Fleshbag. That contract will be useful in the future," Kyubi remarked calmly, thinking about a certain snake. Jiraiya looked shocked at most, but complied quickly. Naruto nodded and did a certain seal, resulting in his hands glowing both red and green. Jiraiya was curious for a moment, but understanding clicked in his head when he saw all his wounds healing in a matter of seconds. "Where did you learn that?" Jiraiya asked, getting up and feeling invigorated. Naruto's hands returned to normal, and he regarded the Toad Sannin with a collected look. "I met up with Tsunade-sama a while back, and she taught me the basics of the medical field. With her and Kyubi-sama's tutelage, I advanced quickly. I'm not on par with Tsunade-sama's skills as of yet, but pretty damn close." Jiraiya nodded, his respect for the kid growing exponentially. "Well, with the control you have, I don't doubt you will be able to get the Rasengan and the body flicker down in a week or two." He thought a moment. "How the heck did you know about the Rasengan and the body flicker in the first place? You've never had schooling." What an idiot. Did he really forget I am sealed inside your navel? You look like a freaking fox, for crying out loud. Sometimes I wonder how he ended up being a Sannin, a legend, known for quick thinking, their repertoire for jutsus, and their great chakra reserves. Kyubi kept his rant going. Naruto's eye twitched from annoyance, but didn't dare try to tune out his master. He simply replied, "You don't have much of a brain, do you?" Jiraiya frowned at this. "Why is that, you brat?" All 8 of Naruto's tails flared up and became denser. Jiraiya paled once again and backed up. "Brat? Who are you calling a brat? You just asked me how I knew those specific jutsus, and you forgot that I am the vessel of the mighty Lord of Demons, the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Only a real brat would forget important facts like that. Be glad I am not in the mood for ripping your eyes out." Naruto growled menacingly. "That's the way you're supposed to act, fleshbag. Make him cower," Kyuubi exclaimed giddily. Naruto kept the charade up until he thought that no more fear could appear on the Sannin's face. "Know your place, pathetic mortal. Now, teach me those jutsus before I change my mind." Jiraiya nodded and wearily walked into the forest. Naruto followed, his chest swelling with pride for making his master proud of him. "Now, if only you would act like that all the time. People would think twice before crossing you again. That reminds me, you need to stop thinking about that pink loud-mouthed wench before I gag." Naruto's face grew stern for a moment, the expression unnoticed by the scared witless Jiraiya leading the way to a suitable clearing. "Why can't I think of Dash? Are you questioning me?" Kyuubi demanded harshly, making Naruto visibly wince. "No, I'm not, Kyuubi-sama," Naruto replied somberly, giving in to his master's wishes. "Good. Now hurry up and catch up to the idiot." "Yes, Kyuubi-sama." Naruto hurriedly caught up to Jiraiya and kept pace. A small boy was sitting on top of a huge mountain, watching the beautiful sunset go down. He sighed happily, feeling peace and serenity enter his small, pure heart. No one could hurt him here because no one knew how to get up here. Well, the ninja of the village could, but none of the abusive villagers can. Despite the late season, it was still very warm, and the small boy found himself lying down on the ground. He didn't need to go back just yet, and he needed some of this peacefulness to stay a bit longer. He needed this peacefulness to stay. He needed it like a lifeline, and in some ways it is. This is what kept his sanity in check from the harsh realities of life that most kids are protected from. Oh, how he longed to know who his parents were, what they looked like, what they smelled like, and how warm they felt in a hug. How he longed to feel what a hug actually feels like, what a kiss on the cheek feels, or praise from the person you loved most. He never had anyone that closely resembled someone he could trust, and he didn't know, in the least, what love was. He never received anything besides scorn, hate, pain, betrayal, and being shunned for reasons nobody ever elaborated. With a sigh, the boy got up and walked back down the hidden path that led up and down the mountain he was on. It didn't take long to get to the bottom, and staying as silent as he could, he began his trek back to the orphanage. Each time he went back to the orphanage, his loneliness, fear, sadness, angry, remorse, confusion, and pain would come back, suffocating him. None of the other orphans ever played with him, and the adults only gave him tattered, dirty clothes. He never had any friends. He's never known the nice feeling you get in your chest when you met someone special or made a new friend. All he has known is pain and loneliness. Accidentally running into a drunk villager, he quickly begged the villager's forgiveness. He was not getting off so easily. The drunk began to beat on the little boy with a beer bottle, and soon, blood was dripping and streaming off of his face. Many other villagers joined in on the fun, kicking and beating the innocent little boy into the ground. After what seemed like an eternity, the entire mob left, and in their wake was a battered, bruised, bloody, innocent blonde that wearily got back up. His usual spiky blonde hair was now a deep crimson color and was stuck to the top of his head. His normally sky blue eyes that held spirit, innocence, purity, and serenity were now dead of all emotion. They were just dead. Nothing came from their depths. He quickly, but carefully entered the orphanage and headed straight for his room. He knew he would get anything else from the adults concerning food, so he didn't bother. All he had for a room was a broom closet, but even so, he was glad he had something and didn't have to share a room. His room was very small, with the lumpiest, dirtiest, moth-eaten bed in the entire building, a small pile of tattered, Filthy rags that nowhere near resembled clothes, and a bunch of newspapers blankets. The shelves were empty and dusty. He didn't dare set anything up there because the adults would take them away and burn them. He kept the few possessions he had in a small box that was hidden under the bed. There was a small bucket of water in the corner, full to the brim with dirty water. The boy went over and lapped up some to drink, since he had no cup to use. After he was satiated, he wiped his wrist on his mouth to get rid of the water there and dunked his head in. He scrubbed out his bloody hair and carefully wrung it out. After that was done, he retrieved the box under his bed and opened it. There was a strangely shaped rock that resembled a cracked heart, a shell of some kind, a small book full of pictures of animals and their matching letters, a small stick that was able to make marks on his walls, a bit of paper with small drawings of 3 stick people holding hands, with the one in the middle being the shortest, and a small picture of the most beautiful woman the boy had ever seen. She had long brown hair that was swaying in the wind, wide, innocent lilac eyes that held warmth, love, laughter, happiness, serenity, purity, confidence, and beauty. She was in a beautiful meadow that was bursting with color, and she was holding her swelling stomach, a look of pure, unfazed happiness on her face. Her smile made the boy feel warm inside, even though he knew that the smile wasn't meant for him. She was surrounded with swirling leaves and flower petals, her simple, yet lavishing kimono dancing merrily with the wind. The boy sometimes felt a connection to the woman in the picture, but he didn't know what it meant, so he brushed it aside. Sighing, the boy carefully set the picture aside and brought out the book to read while browse. He was so caught up in his browsing that he failed to hear the footsteps until they were right in front of his door. The door flew open and startled the boy so badly that he dropped the book where it was and backed up quickly, resulting in the picture of the beautiful woman dropping on the floor. Some newspaper followed, covering it up, and the boy was hit repeatedly when the adult found out what he was hiding. After a good beating, the adult grabbed the box and left, closing the door behind her with a bang. The boy cried silently to himself, asking over and over again, why? What did he ever do to them? Why did they treat him like this? Why did they take away whatever happiness he had? After a bit, the boy somberly reached over the side of the bed to pick up his only source of warmth and didn't notice the picture that was in between newspaper to slip out and in through the floor panels. He didn't notice that his only source of happiness was under the floorboards, waiting to be found. All he felt was loss, pain, betrayal, confusion, and anger toward the adult that took his precious box away. He knew that he was never going to see his box again, the only thing in this that he liked. From then on, he knew that he was never going to be truly happy. He was never going to have a family, a friend, someone to converse with, someone to cry on, and someone to love him. No one was going to love him, care for him, make sure he was going to be okay, make sure he ate enough. He couldn't trust anyone, no one, only himself. He didn't know the feeling of happiness, of love, of peace, of serenity, of warmth from another human being. All he knows is anger, pain, loss, confusion, sadness, emptiness, and the unmistakable, hard to miss, feeling of being totally and utterly lonely. That's all he ever felt. He was always alone, always isolated, and always lonely. Naruto woke up, his face covered with sweat, and his clothes were soaked completely through. His breathing was ragged and tears were streaming down his face. "Naruto, what's wrong?" Sasuke asked, right beside him, concern apparent on his ever-stoic face. Naruto didn't answer right away, trying to sort out his thoughts. Kyubi-sama was asleep, he could tell, so he could tell Sasuke of his dream. I think it was a dream. Naruto tried to calm his breathing down. "Do you want to talk about it?" Sasuke asked, backing off a bit, his mask ever so slowly slipping back into place. "Yeah, sure. In the kitchen, please," Naruto replied, getting up. Sasuke nodded and followed him into the kitchen and sitting down at a chair. Sasuke had to get steel chairs at some point, since his new weights had gotten so heavy, all of them broke. Naruto sat down opposite of Sasuke and relayed what his dream was. Sasuke let his mask drop again, and a look of confusion, anger, and understanding entered his handsome features. When Naruto was done, he felt a lot better. The sun was just starting to peek over the eastern wall, and the boys decided to have breakfast and get cleaned up since it was morning anyway, and they couldn't get back to sleep. Before they left the apartment, Naruto spoke up, "Thanks, Sasuke. You don't know how much this means to me." Sasuke looked at Naruto with a slightly surprised expression, but recovered and said, "Hey Chin, let's go meet up with Sakura." "Yeah." Naruto left first and walked down the hall leisurely. Sasuke stayed a moment and followed, thinking, "You are the closest thing I have to a brother." Naruto Chapter 18. Sasuke, you're going to be spending the remainder of the month training with Kakashi-san. He can help you further your Sharingan. The Chunin exams are coming up soon, and you need all the practice you can get with it. Okay. Naruto looked over at him a moment before leaning up against a tree. "HN, whatever. What about you and Sakura? What will you do?" Sasuke asked, going into his "I'm too good for you" stance. "Oh, don't worry about Sakura. I found her a good teacher that will teach her some good techniques. And I'll be doing my own training. Now what say you?" "Yeah, Fine. Where am I supposed to meet him?" "Well, you were supposed to meet him at training grounds 7-15 minutes ago, but, well, we all know how tardy he can be. We should go and find Sakura to get some ramen." Naruto smiled gently, reminiscing about a steaming bowl of miso ramen he had only yesterday. Sasuke's sweat dropped and his eye twitched. Is ramen all he thinks about these days? Sasuke asked himself. Then, something hit him. Naruto, who the heck is Sakura's teacher? Don't get jealous, but Tsunade of the legendary Sannin is going to teach her more chakra control and medic jutsus. I sent for her a week ago and should be here today sometime. After the Chunin exams, I'm going to get Jiraiya to teach you for a bit. Maybe a couple of months. Why just a couple of months? Sasuke asked, a bit peeved about being left out. Because Jiraiya wants to take me on a training trip for about a year. And Tsunade would stay here and make sure you get a good tutor, maybe teach you herself. Naruto replied, hoping to any god, known and unknown, that Sasuke would take this well. Fine. You didn't tell me your teacher. I told you that I would be training on my own, Naruto murmured, already headed to Ichiraku's for some ramen. Before Sasuke could answer, someone cut him off. Naruto-kun. Sasuke-kun. Good morning. Sakura yelled out as she came to a stop beside Naruto and immediately latched onto his arm. Hey, Sakura-san, up for some ramen before training begins? We don't have any missions today, Naruto asked, smiling slightly. Sure, Naruto-kun, Sakura exclaimed happily, slightly drooling over the prospect of ramen. Yep, she became slightly obsessed over ramen and was now her favorite food. Great, let's go. We have an hour before we have to meet up with one of my old senseis. She should meet us in the Hokage's office, Naruto explained, leading them to Ichiraku's. Sasuke just chinned and stayed stoic. He was wearing his new training clothes that consisted of loose, black shinobi pants that had bandages at the bottom hems to make sure they didn't get in the way, and had his weapons pouch on his right leg. His arms were completely covered up past his elbows and another weapons pouch on his right forearm. He wore a navy blue shirt that had the Uchiha crest on the back, and his forehead protector was, of course, on his forehead. He also wore black fingerless gloves and black combat shoes that came up to the middle of his calf, not that anyone could see. He wore his weights on his wrists, ankles, upper arms, and upper legs. They all weighed 45 pounds. Sakura was also in her new training outfit, which consisted of a dark red tank top, accompanied with a black undershirt. Her black shinobi pants were rolled up to her knees and held there with bandages. On her right hip was her weapons pouch and was the only one on her at the moment. She wore her now black forehead protector like a bandana that covered most of her pink hair. The only bit of hair that was visible was what came down in gentle waves down her back. She wore dark red, fingerless gloves, the same shade as her tank top, and black combat boots that only came 3 inches past her ankle. She had her weights in the same place as Sasuke, but they only weighed 30 pounds each. Naruto, well, what he was wearing could be considered training clothes, but he wears them all the time, even when out on missions. His outfit consisted of a semi-skin fit black t-shirt with the kanji 4 Fox on the back in bold blood red letters. He wore dark green shinobi pants with 2 belts crisscrossing on his waist. His arms were bare, showing off his well-toned muscles, and his pouch on his right leg and left hip on the opposite hip was another pouch filled to the brim with necessities like a small first aid kit, just in case, extra bandages, and other stuff. He had thick black combat boots on, making his feet weigh 50 pounds each, and on top of that, his weights weighed 100 each. He weighed a good ton, and he needed to up the weight soon. His face still had the whiskers, but they were darker and more defined than before. Since the day he had gotten his 8th tail, Naruto had an ethereal god look about him. His chin was chiseled perfectly, his cheekbone high and prominent, his canine teeth longer, effectively scaring away children with a single smile. His ears were pointed, and the nubs of soon-to-be fox ears were appearing on top of his head. Though his long, sun-kissed hair hid them well, it was only a matter of time before they were showing. He had his hair in a low tie that went down to the middle of his back, and his eyes were warmer, since comparing them to his old eyes deemed it so. His 8 tails swished daintily behind him, since now he had complete control of them. With his sharp hearing, he picked up curses from the villagers. He ignored them, however, since what they thought didn't really matter to him. Not since he ran away. Oh yes, he did remember the village, but didn't feel hatred towards it. For some strange reason, the longer he stayed here, the more he fell in love with it. The same went with the pink-haired beauty latched onto his arm, chatting away. Of course, being Naruto, he isn't aware of his growing feelings just yet. They entered the now flourishing Ichiraka ramen shop and sat down in their usual spot. They placed their orders and sat there. Not long after, several more people came in, and these people were the rest of the genin. When Ino saw Naruto, she gave a small squeal and ran up to him. Tintin gave a blush, and so did Hinata. Billboard brow, move so I can get to my Naruto-kun. Ino demanded, standing with her hands on her hips in front of Sakura and an angry expression on her face. Sorry, Ino-san, but our order is here. Why don't you join your teammates there? Naruto cut in, pointing her to her team, consisting of the newly formed Ino Shikacho group. Their old team mate was sent back to the academy when they found that his skills were less than mandatory level for genin rank. How he managed to pass was completely beyond them, but some were glad that he wasn't in their hair anymore. But I want to sit by you, Naruto-kun. Just move billboard brow. Shut it, Ino pig. Go away before I lose my patience with you. Sakura huffed and turned her attention to her bowl of shrimp ramen. Naruto tuned him out, already on his 5th bowl. How he managed to pack it all away is a complete mystery, but no one, not even an Akamichi, could beat him when it came to eating ramen. That's how he becomes friends with Chuji after he was moved to Shikamaru's team. They had an eating contest, with Naruto winning by several bowls within the time limit. Sasuke ate silently beside him, on his 2nd bowl when Naruto moved on to his 7th. After Ino finally decided to give up, Sakura got her 2nd bowl started. After his 15th bowl, Naruto decided to call it quits, his stomach filled contentedly. Paying for all their food, and a little extra for a nice tip, all 3 of them left. Right after them were 3 others. Billboard brow. Fight me, and whoever wins will get Naruto-kun's heart. Ino declared, confident that she would be able to win no problem. Naruto rolled his eyes, unaware of Sasuke doing the same thing. You're on, Ino pig, and if I win, you have to admit I'm better than you and leave me alone. Sakura replied, smiling smugly. Fine. Training grounds 10. Be there in 10 minutes, or else you forfeit, billboard brow. Ino stomped away. Naruto-san, someone said behind Naruto. He turned around and saw a Hyuga standing there looking at him with a slight glare. What is it, Hyuga? Naruto asked, not fazed at all by a pathetic glare. I challenge you to a fight. Training grounds 10 in 5 minutes. Fine, I could use a warm-up. See you in 10, Sasuke. Naruto called back, walking down to the specified training grounds with Sakura walking beside him. Tintin, who had just walked out, went back and immediately to tell the others. Sasuke Uchiha, I also challenge you to a spar. Same place, but after Sakura-chan and Naruto-kun's fights are over, a green spandex-clad boy challenged. Sasuke just nodded and walked to the same place, a bit of excitement bubbling in him. He couldn't wait to show the rest of the losers his real strength, now that he was getting close to 3 commas in each eye. The rest of the genin walked out of the ramen shop and followed, eager to see what Naruto was all about. Naruto and Neji were about to start when everyone else arrived. Neither of them seemed to notice their audience. I'll go easy on you, since it's your fate to lose, Naruto-san, Neji stated monotonously. Lee and Tintin's sweat dropped at this. I thought you were going to be at least a challenge for me too, Hyuga-san. Naruto whined slightly, getting irritated at the fate freak. Why should I? With these eyes of mine, I can see fate and what she has in store for all of us. It is your fate to lose this match and acknowledge your superiors. Neji smirked, getting into his Jukin SP stance. Naruto got into an unfamiliar stance, even to Sasuke and Sakura. Now, Hyuga-san, I wonder if my future is actually set in stone, like you say it is. If it was, all of you would be dead, and I would also be too, for my inner beast does not like humans at all, Naruto said cryptically, scaring a few in the small audience. But underestimating your opponent is the worst thing anyone could do, ninja or not. Do not presume to lecture me, fool. All I'm here to do is prove that I am your superior, as fate wanted me to. Now, let's get started. Neji charged forward, a determined, yet bored look on his face. Naruto stood there a little impassive. When Neji was half a foot away from him, he lazily stepped to the side and Neji ran past, a startled look on his face. Before Neji could regain his lost momentum, Naruto stepped up behind him and hit him on his pressure point on the neck. Neji's eyes closed immediately and he fell forward. Naruto quickly caught him and set him on the ground, disappointment etched in his features. Sad. Naruto mumbled absent-mindedly, standing up straight. Maybe now he will shut up about fate, because in my eyes, she's non-existent. Whoa, Tintin and Lee said in unison, eyes wide. This boy, whom they had never really gotten to know or really seen before, just defeated last year's Rookie of the Year, and in one hit no less. The winner is Naruto-kun. Sakura jumped up and down excitedly. Their small audience was also wide-eyed, mouths hanging open. How the hell did that happen? Kiba yelled out, fist pumping in the air. How did what happen? Naruto asked, walking towards Sakura and Sasuke. How the hell were you able to defeat Hyuga Neji that fast? He was last year's Rookie of the Year. Kiba yelled out again, very confused. Naruto winced at that moment at the loud sound. Would you bring your tone down, please? I'd rather not go deaf, Naruto asked, his pinky scratching his ear. Anyway, he underestimated me. I understand that underestimating your opponent is the worst thing you can do. Did I ever learn my lesson? Someone said behind them. They all turned around to see a blonde woman with a big bust and a small jewel in the center of her forehead standing there, smiling. Tsunade-sama, how nice of you to show up. It's been a while. Naruto smiled and walked up to her. What? This is Tsunade of the legendary Sannin. Tintin asked bewilderedly. Everyone else was the same way. Yes, I am Tsunade. The brat there asked me to come to Konoha to teach someone. I'm only here because I owe him several favors. Tsunade smirked, knowing that was a downright lie. A few favors? Try several hundred. I'm the only reason why you aren't in debt anymore, Tsunade-sama, Naruto stated, standing in front of her. Tsunade smirked again, clearly amused. Fine. Whatever. Now where is my student? She has a fight to start now. Wait until she is done to see what she's got. I trained her pretty well and should take out her opponent easily. Naruto smiled, motioning for Sakura and Ino to start. Fine, but if she ain't good enough, I'm leaving despite the amount of favors I owe you. By the way, Where is that perverted teammate of mine? Probably doing what's best. Doing research at the nearest source. If you catch my meaning, Naruto answered, ignoring all the looks directed at him. He never learns, does he? I'll just have to pay him a visit later to see how far along he is. If he is still where you say he is, I'm going to castrate him. All the men cringed at the thought, and their hands crept closer to their packages to make sure it was still there. Naruto, on the other hand, stepped away from Tsunade with a fearful look on his face. I take it he isn't going to get off easy, is he? Naruto asked, beads of sweat on his forehead. Tsunade grinned sadistically, one that looked absolutely terrifying on her face. You never know, will you, Naruto-kun? Chapter 19. Sakura and Ino finally recovered from their shock and faced each other in the training grounds. Ino had a smirk in place, confident that she would be able to kick Sakura's, but like nothing. She was certain, from all the teasing and competing she did against Sakura in the academy, that from her infatuation with Sasuke, that she hadn't improved at all. How terribly wrong she was. Ino was cut out of her thoughts when Naruto spoke up. Sakura, there is no need to take them off. Fine, Naruto-kun. You ready, Ino pig? Because I'm not going easy on you, Sakura announced, dropping into the stance that Naruto taught her. Because he was more powerfully built and had his own style of fighting that couldn't be copied, Naruto taught her one that he picked up from watching a group of genins with their sensei. She had perfect chakra control, and her store of chakra was steadily increasing. She had recently reached the level Naruto was at when he turned 4, and that was bordering on Chunin. I was ready the day I was born. All I'm wondering is if you're ready to get your ass handed to you, billboard brow. Ino challenged, dropping in her family taijutsu style. And that wasn't anything important and very well known. Let's just get this over with so I can go with my new teacher. Sakura stayed still, observing her opponent. Ino was the impatient type, so she charged after the first couple minutes. Sakura was ready and blocked her punch. Ino looked surprised and openly gaped. Sakura wasn't supposed to be this good. Taking the advantage, Sakura cocked her fist and drove it into her stomach, resulting in the breath being forced out of her. Ino doubled over and tried to catch her breath. Sakura didn't give her a chance and quickly kneed her face. Ino flew up into the air, her back arching slightly before landing back on earth with a loud thump. Sakura jumped back 4 feet and dropped back in her stance. Ino coughed a bit before getting up and wiping her mouth free of the blood. She glared at Sakura and said, "Okay, enough playing around. I ain't going easy on you anymore. I will prove that my love for Naruto-kun is far more pleasing than yours is, billboard brow." Bring it on, Sakura challenged once again, smirking. Ino charged once again and kicked Sakura. But Sakura brought her forearm up and successfully blocked it. Recovering quickly, Ino brought her foot down and twisted around, bringing her left foot up for a roundhouse kick to the face. Sakura leaned backwards, easily dodging the offending foot. Before Ino could try anything else, Sakura lashed out with her foot and caught Ino in the ribs. She stumbled backwards a bit, and Sakura took the advantage to do a leg sweep. Ino felt her legs sweep out from under her, but before she could land, Sakura put her arm behind herself, crouched neatly, and then twirled around, viciously delivering a low roundhouse kick to her stomach. Yet again, Ino had the air forced out of her, and she was sent 3 meters away and rolled about another 2. Sakura stood up from her current position and stood there, waiting. When Ino didn't get up after a few minutes, Sakura walked up to her and rolled her on her back. She was out cold. Sakura smiled and performed the healing jutsu Naruto taught her. When she was finished, she picked Ino up and walked to the group. "Excellent job, Sakura-chan. But what was all that stuff about me?" Naruto asked, clapping a bit. Sakura blushed, a deep red color, for 2 reasons. 1, Naruto added the suffix "chan" to her name, and 2, he heard Ino proclamation. Not that she was surprised, but she kind of hoped he was too intent on the fight to really notice. "It's nothing, Naruto-kun. It's just some crazy idea Ino came up with to challenge me. she turned to Sasuke. Good luck, Sasuke-kun. HN. Naruto's sweat dropped. The typical answer of the great Uchiha Sasuke out in public. Naruto briefly wondered how the people would react when they found out that their local demon was able to get their beloved Sasuke to open up and smile. He seriously doubted that they would believe him. After all, who would believe some demon? Where did you learn how to do that? Chuji asked, still eating his chips. Ino has the best taijutsu in our group. We seriously thought she was going to win. I learned that style from Naruto-kun. He's been teaching me and Sasuke-kun for a while now, actually a few days after that invasion. That was 3.5 months ago. Were you even going all out? Shikamaru asked lazily, yawning. Nope. If I was, she'd be down in 30 seconds flat. Sakura smiled and turned to watch the next fight. It was between Sasuke and the weirdo with caterpillar eyebrows, bowl-shaped hair, and green spandex jumpsuit. Tsunade looked over at the girl she was requested to teach, slightly impressed. She was even more impressed with her chakra control and knowledge of medical jutsus. Obviously, Naruto taught her a couple of them to heal Sasuke of any major injuries after training. She turned to Naruto and said, Fine, brat. I will train Sakura for the remaining 2 weeks. After this fight, why don't we hit the casino? I want to see if Lady Luck still favors you. Sorry, Tsunade-sama, but I have something to do after this. And even if I didn't, I wouldn't want to lose my luck because you want some more spending money. Or are you in debt again? No, I'm not in debt. Shizen is actually happy that we aren't. Now she can further her training faster than before. Tsunade informed him before paying attention to spar. Naruto followed suit, and just in time for they began just then. Sasuke, still being the ever-impatient type, charged first and cocked his fist for a punch. Lee brought up his left forearm to block, but at the last second, Sasuke pulled back his fist, making Lee confused and dropped to the ground in a low crouch. Before Lee could comprehend what happened, Sasuke shifted his position and delivered a foot uppercut to Lee's chin. Lee flew upwards but recovered quickly and did a quick backflip, landing gracefully. Sasuke didn't give him a chance to retaliate and ran at him. Lee did recover enough to block Sasuke's side kick and try to punch him in the face. Sasuke quickly moved back and dodged it. He pushed his right leg back and bent his left to a 90-degree angle before twisting around and performing a powerful chakra-enhanced kick that connected with Lee's thigh. Lee stumbled to the side before sweeping around, and his right foot connected with Sasuke's chest. Sasuke flew back a few feet before executing a backflip with his hands and immediately dropped into his taijutsu stance. Lee charged quickly, his fist ready. Sasuke couldn't dodge in time, so he quickly lashed out with his leg and caught him in the chest. Lee managed to kick Sasuke in the face as he was flying back. Sasuke careened back, his nose bleeding. He scowled and ran back at Lee. Lee managed to land on his feet in time to block Sasuke's flying kick, quickly grabbing it, and flung Sasuke away. Not giving him any time, Lee went after him, delivering a punch to his ribs. Sasuke took it with a small grunt and threw a punch at Lee. He caught his hand in a surprising grip and squeezed. Sasuke's scowl deepened and kicked Lee in the side. Lee caught his leg with his free hand and kept it there. Sasuke smirked and pushed off the ground with his free leg. Lee was surprised and was unable to do anything when Sasuke arched over his head and wrapped his free leg around Lee's neck. With his equilibrium out of balance and the extra weight, Lee fell to the ground, face down. Sasuke's leg was still around his neck and getting tighter. Forfeit or I will force you into submission, Sasuke panted. Lee had no choice. He was starting to lose consciousness. Fine, I forfeit. Sasuke nodded and let Lee go. He slowly got up and winced at the pain in his nose. Lee got up too and scowled slightly, a look of determination entering his eyes. Alas, I have a new rival. I will not stop training until I beat you, Uchiha Sasuke. I will start out with 2,000 push-ups, and if I cannot do that, I will run around Konoha 200 times. And if I cannot do that, I will dash. The rest of his proclamation was ignored. Sasuke's smirk never left his face as he walked back to the group. Good job, Sasuke. But don't let it go to your head. That would be worse than underestimating your opponent, Naruto told him, patting him on the back. Whatever. I'm going to train for a bit. You coming? Sasuke asked, stuffing his hands in his pockets. Can't, I have to do something. Kakashi-san will meet you at Training Ground 7 at 7 sharp. And don't worry about him being late. I'm holding his Ica Paradise collection hostage, so he wouldn't dare be late for anything. I'll see you later. Naruto waved goodbye before poofing off. Sasuke shrugged before walking away from the training ground he was in. The rest of the Rookie 11 dispersed, some shocked at the amount of improvement they went through, some pissed about losing, and some in awe. Tsunade cleared her throat and said, Sakura, please come with me. We have a lot to talk about. Sakura smiled before replying, Okay, Tsunade-sensei. Lead the way. Tsunade smiled back at her before leading the younger Kunoichi to her apartment. Naruto reappeared in front of the orphanage he lived in before leaving. He walked in, his tail swaying lazily behind him. There were no children around, and he was thankful for that. He never really did like kids, but held a small area in his heart for the lonely, sad, abused, and all-around unwanted ones. He snuck past the manager and followed his memories to his old broom closet. It took 10 minutes, but he finally found it. His shaky hand came up to the door handle and opened it. It was exactly how it looked when he left, except covered in dust. The bed stank badly, and the papers were rumpled with yellow spots all over. Naruto carefully moved them out of the way and lifted up the floorboard. With his strength, it came easily, and he set it aside. He saw the aged picture exactly where it fell. He picked it up tenderly and stood up. The small broom closet was small for him when he was younger, but now he could barely fit. He still had a slouch. He slowly backed out of the small room and closed the door with a small click. He quietly walked away, and when the stench finally disappeared, he stopped and examined the picture. It was exactly how it looked in his dream, no memory. From her lilac eyes to her simple, yet beautiful kimono and brown hair, it was the very same picture. He felt that connection he did when he was younger form in his heart. He needed to know who she was. He quickly exited the building and teleported to the Hokage's office. When he arrived, Sarutobi looked up with a slightly surprised expression on his face. What brings you here, Naruto-kun? He asked, setting his pen down while his clones scribbled away. So, you did take my advice. Naruto walked up to his desk and set the picture on top of the papers. I want to know who she is. The Sandaime looked at the picture in curiosity and almost choked. Naruto frowned and asked, What is it, old man? Do you know who it is or not? Sarutobi nodded, looking up at Naruto. Before I answer your question, I need to know. Where did you find this? Oh, yeah. I kind of found it under your desk when I was 2 and kept it. She was very pretty, and I enjoyed looking at the picture, Naruto answered. Sarutobi raised an eyebrow, but didn't comment. He looked back at the picture and asked, Do you feel anything when you look at her? This confused Naruto. Yeah, sometimes I feel as safe, loved, wanted. Sometimes I feel sadness that I didn't know who she was. I felt that if she was alive, I could personally meet her and thank her. Do you know who she is? Sarutobi sighed and picked up the picture. Yes, I know who she is, and regretfully, she died in the Kyuubi attack. She had birth complications and died from blood loss. Her child was alive, though, and that's what mattered to her. Naruto was beginning to get frustrated. Can you just tell me who she is? He looked at Naruto with solemn eyes and stated, She was your mother.